Today, for those of you that traveled, I hope your journey was lovely. I was saying that I forget how beautiful the drive is here, like especially once you leave the Union area and it's just all the trees and all the things. So, um, we are gonna.
Yeah.
Okay. We are gonna do introductions and icebreaker after we approve the January 9th meeting minutes, which are in your packet. And those were also sent out to you via email. Any edits? What did we have? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
I move that minutes are approved as submitted.
Raina, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes go.
Introductions and icebreaker to get us warmed up, and let's start with folks online so that
Oh, sorry.
to know who's there. On screen or off screen, not a problem at all. Are you okay if I call out some names? And who you are, where you're located, and we'll get into the room. We'll say, where do we come from? What town do we travel from? The work you do, and then here's the icebreaker question. Prepare yourself. As spring begins to show us flowers and petals, what fruit or vegetable are you most looking forward to picking off the plant, the bush, or the vine and eating fresh for the first time this spring or summer? Okay. Hillary, you want to go first?
I do. I
Okay.
was just typing that in the chat too for my brain, but now that I'm going first, I guess I don't need it as much. I am really looking forward to going to a specific place and picking blueberries, actually. So that's not going to be for a minute, but there's a place near my house that I love to go to and pick all kinds of fruit, but their blueberries are my favorite.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you the place later if you promise not to take all my berries.
And if you wouldn't mind, who you are and what you
Oh,
do.
yeah, and who I actually am. Sorry. I'm
Fabulous.
Hillary Blackstone. I work for the Heck. It is good to see so many familiar faces in that room. I'm sorry to not be there with you, but you're in good company with each other. I work primarily with Oregon Conservation Corps, but I do some other support for the Oregon Youth Works team, and in particular with training, although everybody else also helps with training as well.
Thank you, Hillary. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go right across the grid. Mike, you would?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Mike Norman, and I'm brand new to the Heck. It's been a little bit less than a month, but it's been a fun ride so far. And I will be primarily doing grant administration work with Oregon Youth Corps, but of course I'm part of the Oregon Youth Works team and the OE team, and will support wherever else I can help. I'm based in the Salem area, and yeah, I really like blueberries as well, but my daughter likes strawberries the most, and it's a fun summer activity to take toddlers out to pick berries. So looking forward to that. Yeah,
Thanks,
that's me.
Mike. Stephanie, to you, please.
You cut in a little bit. I think you said my name, so I'll go ahead and go. Hi, everyone. I am Steph Solomon. I am with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, Office of Workforce Investments, Oregon Youth Works team. I manage a number of grants. One is the Oregon Youth Employment Program, as well as overseeing technical assistance for WIOA youth, as well as the ODHS, Oregon Department of Human Services, partnership grants, which include TANF and foster care right now. As far as fruit or vegetables, I love going to farmers markets. in the spring. And I think the one thing that I love to pick as a kid and continued as an adult is fresh corn. So corn on the cob is my favorite, definitely more of a summer. But yes, nothing better than fresh corn and a barbecue.
Thanks, Steph. Ashley Wright, to you, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley Wright. I work over at the governor's office. I'm the assistant for Sarah Foster, who is our higher education and kind of like infrastructure advisor to the governor. I take all the notes, I make all the meetings, I make everything happen for Sarah, and I'm happy to be here and see you guys. What am I looking for? My grandpa has the greenest thumb of anybody I know, and he always grows lemon cucumbers in the summer. And so I'm really looking forward to those fresh lemon cucumbers this year.
Thank you, Ashley. Matt, to you, please.
Hi all, Matt Collins. I am with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission in the Office of Workforce Investments. I am the Oregon Youth Works Program Coordinator, so I get to have the pleasure to help out wherever programs best need some help during times. I commonly work with Oregon Youth Corps, and I've been helping assist with Oregon Youth Employment Program a little bit recently, and starting to get to know some of the other programs a bit more too as well. I'm located here in Salem, and gosh, I am most looking forward to, I'm going to echo what good friend Mike said about toddlers and strawberries. We have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and the last time we picked strawberries, the 4-year-old sat in a chair while we plucked all the strawberries and gave them to him to eat. So it was a good time and very humbling for us because we didn't really get to eat many strawberries. We were feeding him the whole time. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. And maybe this time I'll sneak in a strawberry.
Thanks, Matt. Miranda, to you, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miranda Scheiding, and I am a program manager in the Office of Workforce Investments. I work with this Youth Works team and also the Oregon Serves team, and then I dabble in lots of other things that are OE wide. Let's see. I grew up in a place that we had an abundance of fruit and vegetables. And I am a berry enthusiast and I love the tiny hood strawberries. I would never feed them to Matt's children because they are all mine. But then once they are done, it feels like it goes straight into blueberry season. And my daughter and I like to go out to the gorge and pick all of the blueberries. Last year we got buckets and buckets and buckets and ate them all. And the dogs like them too. You all know I have 2 Weimaraners that love blueberries. So yeah, love the berries. Thanks everybody. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Miranda. Good to see you. Rudy Ann, please.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. My name is Rudy Ann Rivera Lindstrom, and I am the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility for the HEC. As you are aware, I get to support the agency in all things equity work and helping to build capacity and understanding on what that means in what we get to lead and do for our programs. Wow, fruit or vegetables? I was always a picky kid, so this one's probably a little bit of a hard one for me. I guess if we're talking about what's coming into the spring, this is neither a fruit or vegetable, I think. But for some reason, lavender gets picked and put in cookies and lattes, and so I'm really loving lavender lattes right now. So. Maybe that's not the healthiest of things, but in my head, I think it's just keeping me a little bit calmer than normal.
Fabulous. Coffee at your place. Next meeting. Thank you. And I've been on enough Zoom meetings to know that Belinda's assistant is not a person. So now we're going to go to the room.
I talked to them in the meeting and I was like, why is it not responding? And then I figured it out.
And I want to thank everybody for the longer introductions. Next time we get together, we'll just go right to the icebreaker. But this is a great chance to introduce ourselves to and also meet and hear from our newest member, Heidi Larwick. So could we start off in the room with Heidi?
Sure, yeah. I'm Heidi Larwick. I'm the outgoing executive director of Connect to Lane County. I'm based in Lane County, so Eugene Springfield is 22 cities. We serve the whole county. Should I just give a little background on it?
Please feel free.
Okay. So we work with youth between 14 and 24. Often they're from marginalized communities or backgrounds. We serve about 4,000 youth a year. We have a staff of 37. We try to access youth from across the county. And we are, what else should I tell you? We receive OIEP, WIOA, and some Future Ready Oregon dollars. So it's fun to kind of be on this side and sort of hear these conversations. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Background. For the vegetable, well, I'm gonna choose a vegetable. Can't really eat it right off, but this last weekend we were at the market and my kids really love Brussels sprouts. And we've never tried to grow them before, so my son was pretty excited to get a couple of starts and put them in the ground. I think that's what I'm most excited to see if we could actually make them grow and just have some fresh.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Thank you for joining us.
Shade cloth. What's the shape of them? They're very susceptible to.
You know this.
Spelling it.
Yeah, what's where the, yeah.
Okay.
And meanwhile, straight in the wing one.
Okay,
And
great.
coffee grounds. So.
In fact, sorry, I got you.
I feel like this is gonna be a hard one for us.
You really want to see them pull up a fish head and a banana peel at the roots when you plant it. You will.
Oh my gosh,
Just
okay, all right.
Okay, so in 5 minutes, remember, Tiffany, I hope I'm not taking any of the getting to know you stuff that was in your section.
That's great.
Okay, but in 5 minutes, let's get through the rest of the room. And Doug, we're gonna start with you and whip around.
Sure. I'm Doug Denning, and I am with the HEC, Office of Workforce Investments. Do a lot of policy and program advisor work, as well as serve as the director for this board, and looking forward to the tomatoes. Great time for the tomatoes.
Thank you.
Bridget McCracken, Oregon State University. I have a little different title now as of February 17th. Youth CTE Trades and Workforce Development Specialist, which nobody knows what that is because I'm the first one. But basically, Oregon State works with several youth serving programs, and we're looking at how you can tie that together and increase the workforce development components to the work that we do with youth. So I've been working at that. In about a month, the elusive morel mushroom will be something that you can find. So I, like Hillary, will say, no, tell them Rich is where we'll be looking for those, so.
I'm Brian Bond, so I'm the internship coordinator for the Mount Works internship program based out of the Mount ESD Frontier STEM Hub in Vail, Oregon. So all the way over on the other side, right against the Idaho border there. So we work to place primarily, my primary focus is working with graduating seniors to get full-time summer employment, professional development, mentorship. So that was actually before I was here this morning, came over yesterday, the day was working on those placements. So we had almost 50 applicants to the program this year for almost 30 positions. So looking forward to that. For me on the food side, I gotta say it's gonna be apricots. We got some really old apricot trees in the area. Just go out with the buckets and start loading them up.
Thank you.
I'm Davey Pearson. I'm coming from Bend. I work for Discovery Your Forest. We're a nonprofit friends group for the Deschutes National Forest and Ochoco National Forest. The volunteering career pathways program manager. I have a 3.5-year-old, and last summer her favorite thing to do was to pick raspberries in the backyard. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm Brooke Brownlee. I'm the Senior Manager of Labor Workforce and Community Engagement for Portland General Electric. And I also serve as the Executive Director working Clean Energy Workforce Coalition. And I have just purchased 4 new additional raised beds, of which I have purchased for like 4 different varieties of strawberries. So I'm most excited about it. And I have like all the things to prevent the birds from eating them this year, which is my downfall.
Jim Taylor, Oregon Housing, I work on the disaster recovery team, lead the rebuilding of homes for wildfire survivors, and also part of Team Oregon Build, the youth worker there. And it was going to be Granny Smith apples because of the influence of my grandma. But honestly, it's the sugar snap peas that are in the hot house right now. But I love the patience of waiting for the pumpkin. So if I ask a question, I got it.
So basically,
Yeah.
Rena Langston, I'm the program director with the Southwestern Oregon Workforce Investment Board, or SOVA. We are the workforce board for Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties. And so I'm responsible for oversight of all of our service providers. We have 7 service providers. So for their youth programs, adult, other programs through HEC. So yeah, my oversight is all of our grants. I'm with Doug, it has to be tomatoes. I mean, I know it's gonna be a while, but that is what I'm most looking forward to.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley. I am the office support for OE and Oregon Youth Works and the board admin. You get a lot of emails from me. I live in Eugene and I have 3 specific trees I hike to every summer. One is a cherry tree, one is a yellow plum tree, one is a big tree, but it's very specific. I know you have to hike to get there, and I haven't told anybody that, but I stopped and like this whenever you're there. So I'm excited to try that.
Thank you. Randomly.
Yeah, I walk a lot. I walk.
She trespasses a lot too.
Jimmy Wee, that means how are you in my language. Belinda Brown from the Coastal Elected Band of the Ojibwe Otsibay Nation, otherwise known as the Pit River Tribe. People of the Juniper Hillside. June means river. So we're all the people of the river down there. Traveled from Ashland, Oregon this morning, where we have an office. We had 95 employees prior to January 20th. We've had to lay 15 employees off. So going through some transitional job reconstructing at our organization. Lomacatsi is a 30-year-old nonprofit. I'm the tribal partnerships director there. We have DHS YEP programs that we just finished an on-ramp camp for a natural resource career pathway where they got their first aid, CPR, and training in forestry technician skills. We also have Indian Youth Service Corps agreements multi-regionally with the Forest Service and nationally with the Department of Interior. So we go work in national parks all over the nation. And we have active Indian Youth Service Corps projects going on right now in the Willamette. We have 40 people taking a PAC test today. So cheering them on, actually right now they're doing that. So we're happy about that. We also have the Tribal Storage Program out in Eastern Oregon. Burns, I raised my family out there. They're going through the flood right now. So our OCC participants are working out there in Harney County now, 4 of them on the flood and recovery emergency response out there. We also have the Ashland Youth Program, 16 to 18-year-olds that we're doing outreach for. We're continuing to do the DHS YET outreach right now for targeted population. So we're hoping to end that at the end of June. And then we championed through this last December forestry and conservation specialist occupation through the Department of Labor. And we're currently working on our pre-apprenticeship program with the Bureau of Labor and Industries in the state of Oregon. So that's what we're up to. Mother of 8 children. Wrestling team out in Burns, Oregon, just got another championship title. So I'm really proud of that. 14 state titles in my family. So go Highlanders.
Fruit or vegetable?
Fruit or vegetable. I would have to say paradiridia is yampa. It's our first food that comes out in May through June. You have to work really hard to get it. You dig it. So that's it. We call it Baja in our language. Yampa is the main word for it. And we're going to have an ITech day in June out in Surprise Valley. So have everybody in the community come out and dig. Have fun.
Is it a root or?
It is a root. Yeah, yampa, paradiridia. A-plus. Like a little carrot. Carrot, kind of carrot potato tasting.
Brian Neese, I work for the HEC and Office of Workforce Investments. I'm a program analyst. I administer a number of general fund and one federal grant that's been going strong. And as well as I also participate in the Youth Works team, even though I don't have a grant that's specifically youth. A number of my grants do include the age range that includes youth. I try and, make sure everybody's aware of that so that they can use it if they need to with their youth programs. Also do industry sector engagements in a number of industry sectors: maritime, natural resources, clean energy. And I'm also the WIOA Equal Opportunity Officer for the state. And dabble in other things too. Yesterday I was in Eastern Oregon at the Fair Chance Job Fair at Snake River Correctional Institute, and that was awesome. I really enjoyed getting to talk to them and give them some options for their future career pathways. Fruit. My family back in the 70s, my grandfather bought some property up in the Bohemia mining district that included a gold mine, and it's way up on top of the hill, and right now it's probably still covered in snow. But as a kid, I always remembered the salmon berries because I never seen them anywhere but up on this property, in the middle of nowhere. So I am looking forward to eating those because while they don't taste particularly great, the view's awesome. So it's just nice and getting to pick those and eat them. Thank you.
Pat told me his favorite is blueberries. I'm Tiffany. I'll be facilitating today. I will just share really quickly. Well, actually, I'll share that when I actually start. But I think fruit wise, a few things come to mind. I can't kind of disconnect these. I lived in Nepal for a while, and spring was when all the really fresh mangoes would come out. So I always think about mangoes when I think about spring. But then locally, I really appreciated a reminder of lavender.
We are to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Please, since we've gone over a touch, what you might need to take some of the break time.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'll be shorter. Okay, thank you.
No, I thought that was great. Really nice to think about what time of year we're in and introduce hear everybody's backgrounds. Just super quick, my background, about 20 years working with youth programs, so I do have some of that in my background. 5 years working for the state, so a bit of experience, like this much, not this much experience, but this much experience working with things like biennium processes. There's a lot of things that happen in the state that are just really different than other places in the world, and so I have 5 years of experience of kind of navigating that and what that looks like. And let's see, anything else that you want to know about me? My day job is in the clean energy sector. I work for Energy Trust of Oregon. I do facilitation as well. Anything else you want to know about me? Well, I'm here. My job is to make sure, I think of this as being your time as a board. Staff is here to support, listen, but also they have information that you might not have. So I'll be looking for, how do I make sure that you all make the most out of this time? So I'm not here to train, I'm not here to teach, I'm here to facilitate and kind of move us along. And at any point, if we are going way off, and you're feeling like we're not meeting those, let me know, and I will try to make some adjustments. But the real goal for today, there's one real clear goal. And there's a lot that we're doing to build up to that. But the real goal is that at the end of the day, we'd like to come away with outcomes that you all have agreed on for the next year, potentially beyond, but really focusing on the year. You have a lot coming from different places, different backgrounds. And so what do we agree to so that when you all go off, you know what your North Star is. You know what your kind of goals are, and then we've got some momentum that we can build towards. So that's kind of what we in our planning with you, Brooke and Jim, co-presidents, and everybody thought about as a good use of the time for today. And then there's things that build up to that goal. Does that sound good? Does that sound like a clear focus for today, good use of our time? I know you all set aside a lot to be able to do. Okay, great. So that was my job, is to make sure that we get there at the end of the day. And my get to know you, I am gonna adjust it a little bit. I want to just
you're here with two hats on. You're here with your personal hat, your personal professional hat, and you're here with your board hat. I just want to speak 30 seconds to the part of you, the like personal hat, the professional hat. Just what you brought up that in your world, people are getting laid off. So it sounds like changes are impacting you. Just a really quick show of hands. Who in your professional life, who's had to deal, who's dealing with layoffs, loss of funding directly, just to kind of see. So maybe half of folks. So just want to, yeah. And then, yeah, so I just kind of want to name that and say that that is here and just have some spaciousness around that. And also, you're here with your board hat on today. And so as much, and I know I'm never asking anybody to compartmentalize, but as much as we can let go of the other things for today and really have a board hat on and think about Oregon Youth Works and then what as a board we can do for Oregon Youth Works. That will be our focus for today. But my heart personally is goes out to anybody who's been personally had to lose staff. Get to know you. Let's do a quick get to know you. And I'll adjust this a little. Let's see here. So I was thinking of the fact that 1 o'clock is right, maybe after you've eaten lunch, maybe after you've been driving. And so if you're comfortable, and if you're not comfortable, you can stay seated, but if you're comfortable and willing to stand up and let me explain what we'll be doing, and then you can decide how you want to move. But I'm just going to ask, I have 7 questions, this or that question. And if you're this, you're going to stand on that side of the room. And if you're that, you're going to stand on that side of the room. And you might decide to stand somewhere in the middle, and that's fine too. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Again, this is just a different way for us to kind of get up, get moving after lunchtime, and get to know each other. So first one. Uh-oh. Where's my, 1 second here. It's got this set up as like a funny, okay. Okay, folks who are remote, who are joining virtually, if you want to, you can, you should be able to still join us. Okay. So this is my first time on the board. I have been on a board before. A board or this? A board. The first time on a board, I have been on a board.
Yeah.
How about a couple of you who've been on a board before? You want to share what boards you've been part of? And we'll go quickly on this, so I won't ask everybody, but maybe a couple of volunteers want to share if you've been part of before. Okay.
Been on multiple for education and music youth.
So one of you, if you're willing, are you willing to share why you joined?
Yeah, it's important work that I was never directly involved with. Request
I'm a planner. Okay. And a couple in the middle. Okay, so we'll go this way this time, one from each group. One of you two willing to share anything about why you're here?
I'm a planner.
100% through through?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I have to live usually, but I mean, I like to have things planned out. I like to have things on the calendar. I like to know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, you don't even want to go on vacation with me because we have a plan.
But everything there's to see.
Yeah. I'm very much about the rules.
Okay. So you're paying attention to here, to like what you're learning about your fellow board members. Okay. One of you two want to share while you're here in the middle?
Well, I am a planner from probably the day I was born. I think I used to drive my parents crazy, or my mom crazy. But I am wanting to be, what I've realized in work and with my children and stuff, I can't. So I'm trying to be a little bit more like go with it and including in the work too. So I put myself in the middle because this is where I want to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But you have a musician.
Improviser, we got the improviser. Okay, well, that says it all, I think. Nice, nice. Did you want to say
No, I
something?
was just saying, I aspire to be a planner.
Yeah.
But the phrase "no plan survives contact with the enemy" is where I live. Like, this is gonna happen, and it doesn't happen, we're just gonna fly by the seat of our pants.
I wish I was more.
Self-care, community care. Okay, so we'll have one volunteer from each grouping and we'll go this way this time. So one of you want to speak to why you chose self-care?
I actually, again, 176 people, I mean, I'm going on walks or swimming in lakes or,
Yeah.
you know, doing self-care, detached
Yeah.
from what we have to do all the time, which is present, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So time by yourself is what helps you refill your battery, or your cup back up again, that's out in nature.
Yes.
Here, some folks in the middle, anybody in the middle wanted to share what you wanted to share why you chose?
I used to do a lot of this and not enough of this. And then I realized not enough of this is bad because then I can't do this. So I'm trying to be more here. I am not here yet, but
balance. Sounds giving oriented. So,
Yes.
So doing this helps you give over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. You got y'all good? Okay, how about one of you?
I mean, I'm trying to be, aspire to be more like Brooke. But I think part of the reason that I'm leaving the position is that I didn't do any of that. And I just burnt myself out, because I just care about so much about young people and people that work for me. And, so yeah, I'm trying to move a little bit more that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, burnout is a thing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. When it comes to Oregon State's youth programs, very experienced, still learning. So the three specifically that this board oversees, so Oregon, so Youth Corps, right? And then the employment, youth employment.
OIP.
Yeah. So these three, so pretty expert. I know those programs really well. I'm still learning a bit about those programs. This is another really nice, hopefully you can really see where folks are at, especially people who feel like they know a lot about these programs. So anybody who knows a lot, are you willing to speak to what?
Yeah, you kind of need to tell people. So like next month, I will be 37 years or 38 years
Wow,
in
congrats.
employment training. So I've always had these components.
Yeah.
in all years, every program.
It's amazing commitment and dedication. Yeah.
Or.
It's probably a little bit of both. Yeah, okay. So we've got, like, if you want, what, you know, answers about history, where have things been? How do things work? Really good person. Anything you want to share about what you know?
Well, we're the sole youth provider for OYP and WIA in our region, and I built them. So I feel like I know them from that
Okay.
pretty well.
You've got somebody who built here. That's how you're on board. What would you like to share?
Just been doing it for a long time in Oregon, probably since 1999, building youth programs, working with DHS.
Yeah.
Health and Human Services, prevention specialists, so have the DHS YP program and we have funding for tribes, so
Yeah.
I worked in the tribal world too for building these programs and putting them on the ground, implementing them.
So a lot of working with state programs.
State, federal, county, and private philanthropy, corporate philanthropy.
A lot of building
Cobbling it
partnerships,
all together. building
collaboration,
all of it, yeah.
and then implementation.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. What would you two each like to share one short thing that you want to highlight about what you know, and then we'll go to one person from this group, one thing you kind of are excited about work.
I know urban conservation for really well because I used to be the chair of the
Yeah.
board. I'm learning about the other things. I know it's in the chair of the workforce board, but you know, the details.
The conservation core questions. Great.
Always aware of them while in public education, but never fully enmeshed in what they did in terms of that interconnectivity in the overall system.
So big picture, yes. Details maybe no, but big picture, you're super aware. Great. Not down big picture. Go ahead. All right, one thing any of you is really excited to learn more about.
All of it. I mean, anything and all of it, yeah.
Great. Okay. I think I've just got two more of these. Thinker, speaker, doer. So thinker over here, speaker here, doer over here.
In what context?
You can think about this board, if we keep focused on like how you might show up on the board. You someone who likes to think things through? Are you somebody who likes to engage? Maybe you process through speaking. Is it really important for you to speak through something to be able to hear kind of where you land on something? Or are you somebody who has a hard time? You just want to get to action. You're like, what are we gonna do? So how about just one person from each? So a thinker, are you willing to share why you chose that?
Yeah, I like having time to just kind of digest what's going on and process it.
Yeah, great. Speaker? Anybody here?
I just did a presentation, so I think it's really important that we speak, we're able to share the knowledge, equip, empower, and train people. I mean, I'd rather be that doer all the time, but I've just had to roll up my sleeves and get out there and go to DC and be here and the places that we need to have a voice.
It's really about advocacy for you and saying, I'd rather do the fun thing, but I'm gonna advocate for what's important.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're happy. And the doer.
I'm probably over there and over here at
Oh,
the same time.
Okay.
I like to think about things, but I get stuck in that world too much, or we do, and this doesn't, like, I like to show something like what is happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's show.
You wanna make sure there's something that is actually.
They can show
Yeah.
up, you know.
But nice. So I think this is really nice balance, right? Actually, really nice to have some people who are gonna really think through, maybe ask the hard questions. The people really thinking about what needs to be spoken and the advocacy role of the board. And then a couple folks who are gonna make sure that we look at implementation and how does this actually work. I think that's see a lot of nice balance here. I want to that too. Oh, yeah, what, oh, we see a runner. And then I think, let's do the last one. Majority vote and then action or full consensus? Majority vote and then let's get to action. If a couple people don't agree, we need majority, let's get to action. Consensus vote. We need everybody to agree.
Jury trial?
Huh?
Jury.
From the board or
And all things.
In general. Yeah, in general, just how you feel.
Yeah.
This was a selfish question. I wanted to see what I'm
Just
looking.
put executive order out there.
Okay, so you two would lean more on the side of consensus, make sure everybody's on board. You all, if there's a little bit of disagreement, let's get the majority so that we can take action. Is that accurate? Does anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to say anything in addition to what I just said? About why you chose where you chose?
She didn't stand on the middle a little bit, because I think both things can still be true
Yeah,
with conversation, debate, ongoing investigation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think it's important that if you don't have people with you, you understand why they're not with you, so their voice has been heard and their concerns have been addressed.
Great.
Whether you can incorporate them into the solution is a different piece of it, but I think that voice is very important.
Really understanding maybe where that resistance is coming from, not pulling over it. And then once you have that, maybe moving forward, that's great.
Preference is consensus always, but you can't stay stuck. You have to make a decision.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for playing along.
Well, that's probably why Brooke and Jim are really good at being. They, well, either come along or go somewhere else. That's what we're doing. But now it's like, you gotta do something, so that's what we're doing.
So just a couple quick notes about the agenda and a couple quick agreements. And then we're gonna dive into grounding ourselves in this moment that we're in right now. So couple agreements, everybody's super present. Just thank you. You all are so busy. I think we can just trust, like, you did a lot to be here. If you have an emergency, something that really needs to be taken care of, please do what you need to do. You all are really busy people. I would just ask that you maybe step outside, take the call, do the thing, so that we stay focused in here. Staying with, water and restrooms and all that stuff, please take care of yourselves. I think one thing I would invite people to think about, and this comes, I love hearing that, like, we want to hear the dissension. If you're somebody who speaks a lot, it might just be something to pay attention to and really just think about, like, if you're speaking a lot, are other people also speaking? And maybe sometimes stepping back to just make sure that other people also have a chance if they want it. If you're somebody who doesn't tend to speak a lot, I invite you to think about your role here and that you were brought in because you have super critical background and expertise. And I invite you to get a little out of your comfort zone and maybe lean in sometimes and maybe speak when you wouldn't normally. So just an invitation. And then if we can help each other manage the time today, that would be great. I'll do my best to kind of keep things rolling and on, but if we can be mindful of just kind of coming back and moving to the next thing, and if we take a break, if it's a 20-minute break, taking an actual 20-minute break instead of 30 or 40, that would be great. So those are my requests. Are everyone okay with those requests? Everybody in agreement? And are there any other agreements that anybody would like to throw out? Is there any agreement that would help you get the most out of today, to engage, to be present, anything that would help you today that I didn't already mention?
Sometimes just like permission to ask follow-up questions of each other. And I would I guess I would just be curious if folks are okay with that. That would just be the only other like group agreement that would be.
Yeah. Especially maybe if you don't fully understand, being able to say, hey, yeah, and thank you, because I think sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to know a lot. Maybe if I ask this question, it'll expose something I don't know. I think we're in a complex web. I can't imagine that everybody can know everything. So I just welcome it if somebody is willing to be honest, because if you have the question, I'm sure many people, other people in the room do too. So thanks for saying that. Yeah, asking the follow-up questions. Any other agreements that you all would like? Good. Okay. The idea for the agenda is we're going to kind of ground ourselves in the moment that we're in. We're going to talk about what Oregon Youth Work, then we're going to go into what Oregon Youth Works North Star is. We will, we'll do something a little bit different and creative because we have the North Star. We're not going to rewrite it or redo it. We're going to work with the North Star that we have, but I want to make sure people have a connection to it, that you all as a board have a connection to it. So we'll do something that's a bit more creative for that. Then we're going to go into what's in and out of your scope, because this is all about, at the end of the day, coming up with goals and what you all want to work towards as a board. And so I feel like pretty critical to that is knowing what is in and out of the board scope. So Doug, who is the expert on what is in and out of the board scope, will go through that so that you know exactly kind of what your role is. And then we'll talk about strategy alignment, because any kind of work that you all do, we want to make sure is in alignment with the HEC, the Oregon Youth, with OE, Oregon Workforce Investments, Office of Workforce Investments, and then with the Oregon Youth Works strategic framework. So I've got some slides that will just take you through what all of that is, so that whatever we're deciding is in alignment with the bigger picture strategies and policies that have already been decided on. And then so that's all kind of building up to then you'll have time in some smaller groups to talk through what you want your board outcomes to be. Small groups will come back to present, and then any decisions that we make will be made as a large group. So that's the agenda for the day. Any questions about the agenda? Any like requests for tweaks or concerns or questions? Otherwise, I'll assume it sounds good. Okay, great. So grounding ourselves in this moment, I think that because one of the things that we decided when we met with the board presidents before this is we know that in this time of changes and just a lot changing in the news, sometimes we didn't want people to have questions about what we know and what we don't know for Oregon Youth Work specifically. And so Doug said he was willing to talk to just any kind of direct impacts based on what's happened recently, and then any kind of anticipated impact, so that you all have whatever is known right now about direct and anticipated funding.
Yeah, so I think with the federal stuff, we saw the show of hands of who's kind of being affected right now. So a lot of the folks that we partner with and grant funds to are really neck deep in a lot of the decisions that are being made at the federal level. For our programming, we don't rely heavily on federal funds. We do it through WIOA. We'll see if that gets reauthorized, what that even looks like, but that's an unknown at this point. So we're just kind of treading water there. But with our other programs, we're operating off a state general fund, and for everything except for the Oregon Conservation Corps, we've got current service level in the current budget, but that could change as well. We will see what happens. There is legislation for Oregon Conservation Corps to be funded. It's got strong support both sides of the aisle. It will just depend upon how much money there is at the end of the day for the legislature to decide where they want to put it. The other federal thing too that we're starting to hear just a little bit of rumblings about, and not making any predictions at all here, but if there is a huge hit to the state, losing federal funds that the state relies on to operate across the board. And we'll see what happens with the forecast in May. What does that look like? But there's always, it's not over until it's over and the ink's dry on our budget. So there's always that chance that something could change. But right now we're not banking on any huge changes at this point. So I think that's really it. It is affecting other parts of our agency for sure. But as far as for our core youth workforce programs, so far, knock on wood, the impact, at least at the state level for our funding is not great.
Any questions for Doug? Deb, have you seen anything more on the WIOA allocations? You know, we got the planning, projected planning amounts. Have you seen anything beyond that? Because I have not.
I haven't, and that's something we can get back to you on. That's probably a Julia question.
Yeah.
So to recap, right now, we're actually looking at a lot of consistency. And there are some impacts, so not without impact. And there's things that we don't know in the future. But right now, this biennium looking pretty stable. Is that accurate?
Today.
That's a good segue into, we're gonna do one other activity-based thing, but before that, I just wanted to share a couple of that. I've done a lot of thinking about, because I've done a lot of strategic planning. And I've done strategic planning, and I think that strategic planning, and we're not doing strategic planning here, to be clear. We're talking about implementation of a strategic plan. But even implementation is different when there's a lot of unknowns versus when you have a lot of knowns. So I think the world, it doesn't matter where you are, I think the world of like having a 5-year plan and then doing it and then checking in on it every year, I think that's kind of gone. I don't know that we live in that world anymore. And so I just wanted to, and you all are experts as much as I am. I just wanted to share a couple thoughts that I have and see if these resonate or not. And if there's anything that somebody wants to share as well, based on what you know around how to implement strategic frameworks effectively in times of change. But Ashley, are you willing to go forward a couple? And I can also drive myself if that's easier for you. Okay. So I did a bunch of research, listened to a lot of people who study these things. I've read a few books on this. And I think that a couple of tips that really, I looked for the themes that stood out that kind of kept coming up over and over and over again. So looking for opportunities to transform chaos into opportunity. So when something really changes, you can say, okay, well, that's a huge challenge, or you can say, all right, there's a creative disruption here. What is the opportunity within the creative disruption? So it's just a bit of a different mindset. We can look at cultivating resilience, focusing on cultivating resilience within programs, within staff, within our systems, within ourselves, and the systems that we're part in. Really important to normalize discomfort with change. I think as human beings, I don't know, maybe there's somebody who's really comfortable with change. I don't know anybody who loves change. Like, we're just not built to love change. This is my professional certified coach coming out. Like, we don't love change. And so we can want the change, we can see it, but actually doing it is pretty uncomfortable. And so I think there's something to normalizing that and saying, this is probably uncomfortable. There's a lot of unknowns, and that's okay. And we don't want to try to make it something it's not. A lot of leaders, and if anybody wants the actual leaders or the actual research, I have it all written down, happy to share that with you. But a lot of folks say if there's a lot of uncertainty and change, really honing down on what are like getting purpose and values driven. So getting purpose and values driven can really help be like, I think of like an anchor of a ship. So we'll have this idea of like the North Star, And we don't always know where the ship is going, but the purpose and the values can often be a grounding point and something we come back to over and over and over again. A lot of leaders say that being really clear on what purpose and values are really helpful. And then again, over and over again, adopting this agility mindset. And so like, what is an agility mindset? Actually, if you're willing to go forward one more. These are the core elements of an agility mindset. So trying to kind of anticipate what are emerging threats or opportunities, kind of detecting those early to ground this and what we're working with, funding, the really kind of obvious ones. So as a board, we might want to be thinking about what could be happening with funding, how could we get in front of that? Innovation. If there's change, there's also an opportunity to innovate. Being decisive rather than acting passively. So just making a decision. So we have an opportunity to say, these are the outcomes, this is where we're going, this is what we're heading towards. You can see that theme, that resilience theme coming back, and then dynamic decision making. So just that, like adjusting our strategies in real time. So how is this landing based on your own like personal experience, your professional experience? Anybody want to add anything in terms of how you think of planning and implementing strategies during times of change?
Well, for us, we went right into a continuity of operations plan, again, emergency response to the federal funding freeze, and we're still there. So in times like these, I think it's really important to stick to some standardized protocols of what that incident command system looks like Harney County right now. I mean, I know of all kinds of things that wasn't done correctly or wasn't planned for. And so just having that continuity of operations plan, staying with some standardized protocols when things are chaotic, keeps some stability in the chaos.
Okay.
And so that's, I think, pretty important, because if everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing or is trained, like tabletop exercises, even what we're doing right now, how do we come out? How does Oregon shine during this period of time? How do we come out on top? How do we come out as winners together?
So I don't exactly know what a continuity, what was the word you used?
It's a continuity of operations.
Continuity of operation. So when I hear that, I think of going back to the basics and the core elements.
Right.
But I don't actually know.
Right. It is going to standardized protocols of emergency response.
Okay.
So federal funding freeze, I mean, we are in it.
Yeah.
And so we're in a continuity of operations
So
plan.
you go to emergency, in an emergency, this is what we do.
This is what we do.
And you planned it ahead of time.
Right. Well, no, we put it into place when
Okay.
we're in it.
That's that agility.
Hopefully, we planned it ahead of time, but I mean, that's when you're talking about tabletop exercises. I mean, my house that I had to pay flood insurance for got flooded. I always groused about paying flood insurance, you know, but we didn't, as a community of Burns, ever prepare for a flood. We just groused about paying flood insurance. I mean, so that's
Yeah.
where you plan ahead of time. And then when the, whatever crisis hits, you're ready, you've done the practice tabletop exercises with all your partners, your community partners, you have a plan in place, wildland fire. You have mutual aid agreements in place. They needed
Beautiful.
boots, they needed
Beautiful,
pumps, they
yeah.
should have had mutual aid agreements with Home Depot and Bend and Boise. I mean, those are
Yeah.
the kind of things, that's continuity of operations.
Thank you for explaining that. Yeah, great.
I was gonna say, I think related to that, and I agree fully with all of that, is thinking about like, what do we need to do to keep moving, even if there is this uncertainty, right? Of like, okay, there's no money, that's not true, but you know, there's no money available at the moment. How do we keep the momentum of working through some of these pieces and with our partners to make sure that this is not all lost, right? As we look to the next thing, I think that's a really easy thing that can happen. It's like, oh, the funding's going away, and then we just kind of like fall. And then when there's money available, then it's like, but now you have to rebuild everything that existed. So thinking about
So what can be done even when there isn't money? what could keep things moving forward, even without funding. Yeah.
I would say kind of back to that proactive versus reactive on planning, strategy, funding. Cause that was us, you know, kind of from the education side of it, looking at, you know, all this COVID funding came in here, everybody's flush with money. Okay, what are we gonna do with that? So we purchased as an organization, you know, infrastructure, materials, equipment, all of these capital assets, right? Okay, we know that this funding is here, but we also are looking forward going, this money's gonna go away. This money's not permanent. So when this well that everybody's benefiting from dries up, what are we gonna do? So how do we not overextend ourselves and get so big and unsustainable that when that funding crunch happens, that now we're having to get rid of all, and that's, we see some of the, you know, school districts across the state, it makes the big news, oh, we're having to lay off 100 and whatever teachers. Well, yeah, it's because you hired them with temporary COVID funds. And then, oh, hey, wait, now that funding's up, now what are we gonna do? So that's kind of that for us, you know, kind of where we're at, right? We don't always have a lot of funding, so how do we make the most of what we've got without setting ourselves up to, you know, have that, when that drop comes inevitably, then we have to shut down operations.
Not that it's good to not have a lot of funding, but that's one of the benefits is you figure out some of these strategies, right?
Yep.
And so I hear a couple things, I'm hearing proactive, I'm also thinking long-term. So we're making decisions about the money with the long-term. I want to keep us going, but I also just want to make space for anybody from the staff who has something like burning to share or to say. I think we can hear you through the owl. If you want to just unmute, feel free to unmute and say something if you've got anything. Otherwise, we'll move to. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to have that in our mind as we move forward. So I think that I wanted to do, if there's nobody from the staff who has something burning to share or to add, I will tell you all. I'm gonna pull out one of my props for this next exercise. People who are educators in the room, like, speaking about something is different than embodying it, right? So I was trying to think about like kind of short, simple, fun activity to embody this idea. And so it's totally by choice. I don't want anyone to do anything you don't want to do. And I will tell you the first version of this, I thought of doing this with blindfolds on, and then I decided not to do it. I was like, that probably is asking too much of people. Thinking a little bit literally of like how sometimes do we make plans, even if there's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot of times we're operating in there's some things we know, there's a lot of things we don't. And so operating in the dark, but even when we're in the dark, sometimes we have to throw an arrow far out and we have to say, this is where we're heading. And we want to know where we're heading. And so if you are willing, anybody who's willing, go ahead and stand up for this activity, including staff. Staff can watch too if you prefer, but if you would go ahead and stand up. And I'm only going to be asking you to step forward, nothing complicated, nothing. You don't have to wear the blindfold. But I think that for this, we keep it really simple. If we could come to the inside of this, I don't want to mess with our room too much, but if we can come to the inside. All right.
That's a long shoelace.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then is it difficult? Is it too difficult to push these tables out a little bit to?
No, they're super light.
Just make a bit more space.
Yes. Higher wheels.
Okay. So.
Hang herself.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay, so if everyone can start or back here. You'll have to crowd a little bit in together, but basically what I'm looking for is generally everybody starting from a similar starting point. And are you participating?
I am.
Okay, so if you could join so that maybe the starting point is behind this, if this were an invisible line, everybody sort of goes here. Yeah. Okay. And so this represents a goal and your steps represent the resources that you have. You'll see this is not complicated. You'll see what I mean in a second. So here's your goal. Everybody, you have 3 steps. So you can take 3 steps towards the goal. Go, Brittany. You can only take 3 steps. The steps represent your resources. This is your goal. You can take 3 steps towards the goal. Up to 3 steps towards your goal. Just go for it. Oh, and actually I have a really, can folks, the staff, can they see? Yeah, I actually have a really important, so Doug, you are an observer, all staff, you are observers. And I'm hoping, I'm gonna ask you to speak to what you notice in this activity. So if you can watch what happens. Okay. Stay where you are. Okay, you just said, was that your 3rd step?
Yeah, getting on what you're saying.
Oh, he made it. Okay, he made it. All right. Okay, that's your goal. You can take 3 steps towards your goal, up to 3 steps towards your goal. Okay.
3 additional steps or am I out?
No, you're it. Yeah, 3 additional steps. That's the goal. It's just a different goal, different place.
I like
Okay.
to go over it.
Yeah,
Surpass.
yeah, okay. So how many people met this goal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people met this goal. Okay. All right, here's your goal. You can take up to 5 steps to reach this goal. This is the goal. Your resources are up to 5 steps. Oh, thank you for saying that. Okay, how many people met this goal?
8. Great. Oh, wait, are you, okay, first. Okay.
Okay, great.
You're on touch.
All right, and then one final, over here. Here's your goal. And you can take up to 4 steps. Oh, but I like this corner. Okay. See, there was that was a really interesting thing that happened. Okay, great. So that's round 1, and we're gonna start round 2. So if you go back to your baseline, now we're gonna start a 2nd round, and there's only 2 things that are different now. Okay, so here's what's different. What's different is this time you have a North Star. And your North Star is over here. You want as many people to touch the North Star as possible, to get to the side as possible. That's your North Star. And the other thing that's different is that you can talk and collaborate. You can plan together if you want to. So this is the actual, this counts as making it to the North Star. It fell. Never stirs right. So if you cross this line, you've made it to the North Star. Yeah. Okay. We'll do something similar. 3 steps. Each person can take 3 steps.
To that one.
Yeah. We have to go to that one.
But shooting towards.
Can we just do 3 big steps to the next step? Yeah, there you go.
Swimming.
Okay, you okay. Everybody go look where you landed.
I think you need to.
And time's up. Okay, Now,
Closer.
here's your goal. Over here.
Oh, no.
But the North Star is not. So 3 steps towards your goal. You have 3 steps that you can take towards your goal.
I think you need some people back there who are meeting those goals and still moving the.
Yeah, because I would just go 3 steps and get to my goal. I'm not gonna go
How
back.
about this? How about I use 1 step and I give 2 of mine to you?
Oh.
I think the goals are probably still important to keep.
Just the North Star.
Maybe not, but.
See, I'm okay with skipping the steps along the way. I just want to get to the end.
Flip to the end of the book.
So are we listening to you or are we thinking on our own?
Okay. You will need at least a few people to meet the goal. You'll need at least a few members to meet that goal. Because you've got contracts that
But
you have to
this is our real goal.
Correct.
So if we have the 3
You need a-
resources steps, we're gonna, like, some of us are probably gonna get to the real goal instead of go backwards. But this is real life. 3 steps forwards and 4 steps back.
Now here's your goal. Everybody can take 2 steps towards that goal. I'm a grant writer. I'm looking at your grant. I want to know, did you meet this?
I don't know about you, but I've met 3 goals now, Brian.
Interesting. Okay. And last one, everybody can take 2 steps. This is your goal. You have to cross it. And once you cross it, you can go to the North Star. You have 2 steps that you can take.
Wearing different shoes so I could jump.
My legs are not long enough. I'm sorry, friends.
Okay. Check. Got the grant. Okay. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for playing along. Let's stay standing if you're comfortable. Anybody who wants to sit, you can. Let's do this debrief here. And I'm going to start here. And then I'm going to go to observers and ask observers what they noticed. Can folks see? Okay. So,
You can
what did
see.
you notice?
Hi, Digit.
About this? So first of all, from you all who did this, what did you notice within yourself, within the group? Difference between the 2 activities? Anything you want to share about what you noticed?
I went from a doer to a thinker. I was like, what's the catch?
Okay, so we'll get back to that. I'll ask you what you think the catch was.
I was constantly thinking about just what has been brought up a lot today with what's going on with federal funding, and I was thinking of everything super literally, and I'm like, I don't have a lot of resources, like my organization doesn't have a lot of resources, so I was like going halfway to a lot of the goals and feeling like I couldn't get all the way there.
Oh, the feeling of lack made you maybe be a little bit more hesitant?
Yeah, there's a lot of just wait, we don't have any answers, like.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
that's understandable, right?
Relate to some of that.
Oh, yeah.
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 Superhuman response, right? I don't know, so I'm just gonna be tentative here. Yeah, thanks for your honesty. Appreciate that.
It's the first one, because I did 2 steps, the very, very first round. I did 2 steps and then, okay, we have one, so then I stepped over the line.
Yeah.
I didn't do that to actually do the metaphorical cross the line. I was looking at him behind me and going, oh, he can't get to where I'm at with his steps because I'm blocking his way. So let me get out of his way
Oh,
so he can get there.
okay, so less about achieving the goal and it was more about making space. for
Right, like
someone
I hit the goal.
Yeah,
Now I'm blocking somebody else from here. So let me get out of the way so somebody else can hit that goal.
I just learned something.
But like when the goal is here, we're getting close, but then you moved way back there and I'm like, well, now I'm further away from where I wanted to go, even though it was a goal, further than I was a little bit.
And how did that feel?
Well, I have long legs, so I didn't feel that bad. I can still get there, but still, it's like.
Oh, there's something to that, right? Like, okay, I got some confidence, I got some long legs here, got some resources, changed, it's confusing, but all right.
The goal was changing and I was also waiting for the catch, so I was also keeping track of all the steps that I didn't use in case we got to use more resources later. I didn't want to use them all. I didn't want to use them all up, because I thought, well, maybe I'll need that for something else.
Okay, so thinking about resources, how to conserve resources. And wondering what.
Well, you know, I think I've been doing this work long enough that I know the goals along the way are always going to change. But the end game, the North Star, is going to remain the same. And so that's why I focus on where I've got to get to.
Okay. Okay, because you've been doing this for so long, you've experienced, we're going here, no, we're going here, no, we're going here.
Yeah.
And
We have this many, no, we don't have this many. Oh, now we got this money over here. I mean, it's always been that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That was shoot for the North Star, let me get here. And then I don't care if it's duct tape or baler twine, we're getting this machine across.
Exactly.
the finish
Exactly.
line.
Yeah, you'll figure that out.
Right.
Right. So what was the point of this?
Well, I know that you said we could collaborate.
Yeah.
To get there.
That was part of it.
Yeah, that was part of it.
What changed? What changed when you all were able to collaborate?
What changed? I don't know that we fully collaborated. That's what I feel like I was probably lacking in, is that full collaboration of how do we all get to the North Star together? Rather than I've got my eye on it, I'm going, you know, because that's the fault, I think a lot of times, is everybody getting there together when we see the goal and we can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? What's the point of this? How it relates? I think you spoke really well. That's part of what I was going to. And then one of the other things I was interested in is if there's goals that keep you moving towards the North Star, what happens when all of a sudden somebody says the goal is over here? Has anybody experienced this in real life where you're like, I know that this is our goal.
Government.
Yeah. I know this is our goal, and they're saying to get this money, we have to go over here. And those are decision points, right? I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I'm just saying that's very real.
I think as you're moving towards a certain goal, though, other things emerge that are just, maybe not just as important, but are very important. And needs arise that you aren't aware of, but you see as you're trying to get to one place. So that's important too.
There could be something important in the journey.
Or it's a goal that's, for me, right, was too far away from the North Star, so I'm gonna ignore that goal.
Yeah.
Right, I'm not gonna pursue that, right, it's fun to me, but is it going to actually be beneficial, because it's gonna take me so far away from that North Star, or from where we've already gotten that, right? Maybe it's, $40,000 worth of funding, but it's gonna cost me $80,000 to get that, right, that's taking me too far away.
Yeah.
Or it's a different priority that we're not aligned with.
Yeah, so this is more about the experience. It's not about right or wrong, but I did want to make the point of what feels different when you have goals with no North Star and when there's a North Star. That is one thing I wanted to make sure to get to. So what felt different when there was a North Star? And you knew what everybody's goal was. You knew what the end game was. What changed?
You saw people clearly that were like, this is it. Like, right to bed, like.
So some people go straight for it. Yeah, and then how did it feel internally, just in you as a process? Like, did it change how you felt in engaging in the activity at all?
For me, when it was just the goal, I was looking down, but when it became the North Star, I was looking up.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the invitation to collaborate
There's a nice metaphor
again was
there.
more
A really nice
activity.
metaphor.
Yeah.
How often are we here, right,
Yeah.
instead of here? Anybody else willing to share what felt different for you when there was a North Star? Just one other person? Okay, staff, just couple thoughts from staff. So actually, actually you were participating, but, what did you notice just from watching? And yeah, maybe we can go back to our seats if folks want to sit down now. We can pull these back in. Yeah.
We'll fight it.
Looks like what?
I'll try to do it.
Okay, so Stephanie said, I was curious what folks went for the goals in the opposite direction for the North Star. The room got a bit chaotic when folks started moving backwards and away. Okay. Yeah. So these insights from observers are interesting.
I think because it's easy to leave small goals behind or goals that are from other directions when the big shiny thing is at the end, but that's our underserved populations. Just saying.
Yeah. Who else is willing to share something you noticed? Doug, anything?
Brian Bond has some mad hops. I gotta.
Triple jump.
I also just saw confusion in the room, especially when that goal went backwards. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? And just to try to think that through.
Yeah.
Could definitely see that just playing out in people's body language.
Yeah.
I mean, my team, part of my team in my workplace is focused on equitable engagement. So when I saw that, my brain immediately was like, is this a focus on making sure that you're engaging communities that haven't been engaged? Because if your North Star is like the completion of some project, right? But you haven't done this really good job, and that's been identified. So my brain looked at it in a different way than, and I think this is kind of what you're pointing out, is like, it's not, yes, we gotta get there, but also we gotta make sure that we do it in a way that is providing opportunities for everyone. And in this environment, equitable opportunities for everyone, and in this environment, especially, that's very important.
So kind of what I'm hearing, and maybe the takeaway, and tell me if this doesn't land with you all, but kind of what I'm hearing the takeaway is it is confusing when the goal changes and it's way over there. But there might be reason to pause and say, what is that goal? And I'm hearing two different things. One, is there a good reason for that goal? Or one, could there be some useful learning along the way? And if not, let's keep going towards the North Star. That's sort of the takeaway that I'm hearing. Does that land? That's what I'm hearing from people who said I wanted to kind of think about that. I wanted to think about that too.
And if it was a goal, that vetting process, I mean, it was a legit. I guess if it was already a goal established, I assumed it's legit. It wasn't random.
Okay. So we might also just say, and I will say, as soon as I said there was money involved, everybody around this wall. When I said things have a brain, I'll just say.
Well, if you're made to do it, that's where you have to, the leadership, like, that's what, I mean, there's like, why, trusting your leadership. Now, why are we going backwards, So absolutely not trusting your leadership at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you're sending us backwards.
Yeah.
However, the point is that's where we are sometimes to get everybody to the goal.
Yeah.
Is we have to.
You might need to get
inclusive,
together.
Equitable, somebody's being left out.
And we're assuming that's backwards. I wasn't assuming direction in that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I just thought that's just another thing that has to be done.
Great. So sort of wrapping up, but anybody else want to share anything that you noticed? Any staff courageous enough to share anything that you noticed that jumped out at you? The difference between when there was a North Star, when there wasn't?
I just have to still.
Say something?
Sorry, I started talking and then I heard Rena and I couldn't hear what Rena said. But I was just gonna if Ashley, if you could type what Rena said so that online other people can hear, or a short summary of it. I think the other thing that I noticed when there was a North Star was that there was like some confidence, right? Like there was more confidence versus feeling scrambling around. I think there are times when you have a North Star and then there are those other goals that you realize are important to hit along the way. But the fact that they were able to communicate, I think helped them try to make decisions, even though they could have still done that more.
Okay, so the added addition of communication and then really noticing that the North Star provided some confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. Great. So that's the segue into a kind of a short, what I want to do is take Oregon Youth Works vision, which is your North Star, and I can get this to do this quickly. I want people to be able to work with whatever medium works best for you. I'm going to take a moment to get this nicely set up in a second here, but I want to create a visual, and by visual it could be pictures, it could be words, of what this means to you all as a board. So the vision of this board is resilient, of Oregon Youth Works is resilient and prepared youth and young adults that build stronger communities. And what I want to do is create that for us as we work on building out the implementation of the strategy and these goals so that we keep this in mind. And the idea is that we want some kind of representation of what this North Star means for you, what this vision means for you. And so two different thoughts. One, so I have pens. So I have pens, so you can just write something down. You can write words. I also have magazines. We're not going to spend, this is not an art project. We're going to spend like 15 minutes on this total. So just to kind of set expectations. But if somebody really wants a visual, I'll just throw out a couple of visuals. If you want to grab one and put a visual on, you can put a visual. You can draw it yourself if you want. Could be words. So words or visuals. What would you see? What would we see when we successfully reach this vision? That's the question. So this is the North Star, and what would you actually be seeing when we successfully reach this vision? That's the North Star that we're creating. You can think of images, feelings, and metaphors. If you're a person who thinks in images, feelings, metaphors, you can do that. You can think of words, you can think in terms of data, whatever you want. But vision or a North Star is usually something that's like far, far out. It's the North Star is the thing we can't ever achieve. I can't ever really touch the North Star, but I have it as a guiding point. And that's what our vision is. The vision is the world that we're building, the world that we want to see. And so when we're moving forward, we're moving forward towards this kind of a world that we want to see. And the Oregon Youth Works wants to be building a world where resilient and prepared youth and young adults are building stronger communities. See a couple of confused looks. So what questions? Are there any questions about this or something that doesn't make sense or is not landing?
So you want our opinion, how will we know towards that?
Yeah. What would you see? How would you know? What does this world look like? What does this world feel like? What would you be seeing? I guess I'm thinking probably don't want some picture of like a dead plant on there. Like that probably is not that's probably not a successful, but maybe there's a visual of a youth that's just got like a diploma from an apprenticeship program that they just graduated from. You might take an image or a goal like that and put that up here. So we know that that's what we're working towards.
Unless the plant is dead in the youth's home because they have been so successful.
Yeah,
forget to water the plant.
There you go. I love it.
That is the glass half full.
Rena, does that answer your question though?
Yes, it does.
Okay, anybody else have a question about this? This is intended to just take a few minutes, not super complicated, but I do want everyone to be able to have a voice. So The pens are here. The pictures are here. Scissors are here. And I have blue. So who wants, does anybody want one of these? Two of these? One of these? I'll put a couple out on each. And we'll just, let's go for 10 minutes. See what you can find in 10 minutes. No more. Sure.
Thanks.
I was gonna say that would be motivational camp posters.
There you take that home.
Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah, that feels not good.
Collage time. And then I'm just gonna put the glue up here since they'll probably be gluing up here.
And if folks, just to be clear, if folks want to write on there, feel free to just grab a marker and.
And then write, yeah. If you're someone who prefers words.
I felt the need to explain it.
I'm just moving.
I might need that, right? I have to hear your like. Yeah, they like, my grandma's soggy and yes. I know you're broken. Yeah, my grandma is, her mom is, was 100% British and we had oils.
No.
You had to eat them in order to get dessert at family events. It was horrid.
Yeah, just skip dessert.
No, it was like, for, I mean, I remember like gagging. So, yeah, so.
Maybe minor house.
And then be on the back drawing.
Arnie was the first, oh, dang. What was the first pick?
I was trying to use ChatGPT image.
You can start it.
I'm so sorry.
You're not gonna do anything.
So I was telling you to get that one this weekend. So I keep thinking, they're gonna have to coincide at some point, right?
I think they will.
But I'll be up there for softball tournament and I'll have to go to kickball there.
What you wish for, please.
Well,
Last year, it was good entertainment for,
then my granddaughter, she wants to play.
we could use a, big day that right now.
And she was so funny, she had to the same one and they came by the picture, her little brother, because he's doing the practice. He comes charging it. I almost hit a dog in the park. And I said, what? She goes, I'm hitting really good. And she goes, I almost hit a dog in the park.
But in a good way.
Yeah, in a good.
Actually, I see tree and bridge. What's above that?
Hold on. We should have pulled the thing down over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take out the piece of that. And so it's being painted right now. And the park is like, so I think by the end of April.
Programs. Like I agree.
I mean, I want to be there because I see the county. So when I come over, I'll have somewhere to go. I mean,
No, it's right though. Yeah.
we'll have our own site.
I mean, transformation, growth, change, you could also. Because there's something that happened, there's like a seed you planted that made they that grew. Because they're responsible for that with even.
I like
But-
that. It's very environmental.
Okay, so just write in growth. Yeah, that's ultimate, right, and growth, and organic generative direction.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Terribly.
yeah, that sounds very satisfying.
I started with my own perspective, definitely changed, there's my 15 minutes, like walked around. It was like a nice little-
It's drawing a puzzle together.
Yeah. I mean, coming to Coos Bay, anymore, it's nothing, you only do about it. Make the, but I came over yesterday. And I wasn't eating until 10, so I knew.
Nice.
There was a lot of, there was a.
Nobody's judging. Nobody's judging our.
Earlier, I don't, there's a mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll put it in, not.
This is what so I do and
All right, I feel like we are most of the way there. Everybody got, looks like so as soon as we're complete, I'll, share out what I see, and if I don't know what something is, then I'll ask, whoever put it on to speak to it. And I might start with you if you're willing, Digit, is it, oh yeah, is it her? Did I say your name correctly? Fully loaded, are you willing to share?
That's fully loaded out of a vegetarian magazine that Brian gave me. So I had to draw a cow on there.
Okay.
Can't forget the beef.
Okay.
Okay. Fully loaded, meaning, having the opportunities to know what is out there for them, knowing what their interests are, knowing what their aptitudes are, knowing what's available in the workplace, just fully loaded. They know what opportunities are ahead of them. they didn't have certain opportunities and not others because of who they are, where they are. They know what's out in the world ahead of them, and they have a path forward, whatever that path may be. They know how to get to the North Star.
Love it. I hear a lot about removing obstacles. So that somebody
For
can.
sure. Well, making sure everyone has the same opportunities.
Yeah.
I would say,
Okay.
because
Okay.
they don't know what they don't know.
Okay. So assuming people can't know what they don't know, and so we're here to make sure that you know what your strengths are, your gifts are, your opportunities are. Yeah, great. Beautiful. Somebody willing to speak to the cat?
That was me. I thought it was fitting, just that, kind of that idea of finding your place in the world, whether that be, right, not meandering, not, but, okay, not that you have to have 100%, this is everything I'm supposed to do, but a lot of our students working with them, they don't know, right, they don't know what they don't know. So they're kind of out there getting blown to and fro, they don't feel like they fit anywhere, that their skills don't fit, that their interests don't fit. So kind of helping them be able to narrow down, there's a little cat in the box, right? He fits in the box.
Place.
Not that he's constrained or anything, but I found my place
Okay,
in where I'm supposed to be.
love it. Great. I think what we'll do is just keep going around the room if that's okay with folks, because I was looking at your feed and growth.
Yeah, I put growth. I've had, it seems like every year I'll have like one or two folks who particularly stand out that, and I don't even realize it always at the time, but until the next year when I'm getting job preference to request and hearing about like all of the cool things that they're doing now because of the experience that they got to have through going through the program with me. So it's like really rewarding for me, and it's like really just like awesome to see like what they have been able to do.
Potentially you can help catalyze.
Mine is the great hand-drawn one on the lined paper. It's the sort of outline of Oregon. Words inside. I think the statement that I was just going off was just that I want every young person to have access to an opportunity that feels safe and welcoming. I think where we're at right now in the state, there's not enough resource. If you were talking about your internship program, we serve 55 youth, but we get 400 applicants. And they're all in need of something. And so for me, it's like, that's the vision, the ideal is like every young person has access to something that feels, and that's the other piece to it. It's like safe and welcoming because it's a very diverse group now, and our work system or our like employers, they need to catch up a little bit. So just wanting that to be also be a focus of like where we spend our energy and time is making sure that any young person that goes into a space that they feel like they belong there. So.
I have the graduating kids, and young adults. And I wrote, economic prosperity next to that, and, I actually don't think that college is the only, way to economic prosperity, but I think that the visualization of you have identified the thing that you're passionate about, and then you take the steps to get to where it is. So, I always talk about that if somebody loves what they do, they're just a much better employee than if they are doing the thing that they feel like they have to do in order to make a living. And so in my mind, if we are successful collectively as a state, every kid has found that thing that they love and they turn that into their.
Pick the hot air balloons. And I've actually been at this event. It's quite, the Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Festival is quite a stunning experience. I was thinking of each kid as the person climbing in the basket and inviting somebody else into it. And the event itself. So hot air balloonists are fiercely independent, very confident, very calm persons that I've met and known. And I think that opportunity to educate sport kids to get to that place in their life, but then to be able to come together in community. In this case, it's celebration. I've been thinking about how disaster is bringing our kids and communities together over and over. I'd like to get to a place where coming together to respond to disaster does not necessarily mean that we're in constant crisis in that disaster response, that we can get better and stronger in responding so that we don't move into this longer term crisis, constant trauma.
But really about coming together there and how it comes together.
I had the little swimming kids. Or I think they were swimming or had been swimming. Self-confident. Self-confident, you know.
Oh, here.
You know, with the,
I don't know, with my own kids and with my grandkids, I think not, if you don't believe in yourself, it's really, really hard to get where you want to be. And so really supporting, I mean, I think it's just important that we support youth in believing in themselves, that, you know, I can accomplish whatever I choose to accomplish. So I think self-confidence is huge for our young people.
Buffalo, the buffalo up there is food sovereignty, and for our people, the Aboriginal people of North America, is really, really important. For our tribe, a man that went out and didn't bring something home to eat is not very respected. So in this world where we have fast food, deteriorating health, all technology addictions, all of that, I would see a world where we can feed ourselves again, where we really honor food sovereignty, where the wild foods, the wild meats that are part of our diet, the paraderidia, the yampa, all those first foods are something that we know about and consume. And our youth know how to do those indigenous traditional ecological knowledge skills.
Beautiful.
I did the little one below the buffalo of the one youth helping another one up the stairs.
Yep.
Thinking of community, I was first thinking of like all of us in the community, then I started thinking about the youth community. And I was thinking, Heidi, about when Steph and I were down at your learning summit a year ago, and then you had the youth panel up there. So many of them, if I remember right, found out about it from somebody else, one of their peers. And I think that is way more valuable as a dad of a teenager. If you hear something from a friend, it's the same thing. It means a lot more than it's coming from me. So creating prepared and resilient youth so they can help each other. And it means, I think it's important going forward, especially with the crisis and things that a lot of youth have dealt with being in school with COVID and whatnot. There's a lot of crisis and being resilient, not just for themselves, but to help their community get stronger.
I think that at least the second time I've heard, like, kind of giving somebody else a second hand, like, or a helping hand. So I make my way through and then I help the next person. There's a lot of wisdom in that. We're not always good at that in our culture, but being able to turn around and support the next person. Actually, are you willing to speak really briefly to the tree puzzle piece and bridge?
Oh, yeah, I put the quote,
Oh, and whatever you put on, yeah.
yeah, I saw the quote on the calendar that you can cut all the flowers, but you can't keep spring coming. And that just immediately made me think of like these uncertain times that we're in, and the anxiety, funding, and just federal state of things. And that quote to me represents the inevitable hope and change and resilience that nothing is. Like, we'll learn from us, but we can learn from each other.
And then from staff, we had a bridge and a puzzle piece and a tree.
That had defined, oh yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the puzzle piece could be a young person representing unique skills and backgrounds when assembled. The puzzle forms a vibrant community scene, our town or school, beautiful bridge being built by youth, young people, symbolism. The youth are actively constructing a bridge, building a role, representing their role in connecting, strengthening communities, including tools, teamwork, diversity to show preparation and resilience. Tree, strong roots, diverse branches, the symbolism, resilience and preparation. Branches and leaves are the growth, diversity, contribution to the community. Youth and young adults could be represented as figures supporting the tree. Beautiful. So this is our North Star for the rest of the work today. So I'll just keep this here, but this is our collective North Star. Thank you all so much for helping create that.
Real quickly.
Yeah.
I was just kind of watching and seeing what people put up there. And I guess and it's probably just because of what I get paid to do, but my look at what does that look like was different. Because I think all of that is right. And I wanted to see what everybody was putting down. But I think for me that it looks like, a state system that actually supports at the local level and doesn't dictate at the local level. And we provide sufficient funding to make this stuff happen. Let the pros do what they know how to do. Let us basically fund it, support it, and get the hell out of the way. That's what that looks like to me.
Yeah, yeah. So providing the support that's needed for localized, community-driven solutions to flourish.
Yeah, money sign. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get there. I promise. We'll get to the money. But for now, how does the 20-minute break sound? Break sound good? So, if possible, could we keep to 20 minutes? What time is it now? 2:58. If we could come back at 2:18? 3:18. Thank you. That makes much more sense.
I was like, I don't need 20 because I don't know what to do.
Would you rather have 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah.
5 or 5, maybe 10.
Yeah.
What's fine? 10 minute break?
That's me.
How about like 10? Okay, we'll do a 10-minute bio break then. Let's go until, is there a one filling station?
Yes.
309.
That's all right here.
310, we'll come back at 310. 310, yeah.
Oh,
Is there two?
I was thinking figure out there.
No, it's okay.
no, I've got.
Is it?
Hey, Ashley, what time's dinner coming?
Dinner, I told them between 4:30 and 5, and then I'm actually gonna kind of arrange so I can set it up and stuff.
Doug, will you say that one more time?
Yeah, she's the.
What time is dinner coming?
No, you're good.
I know, okay, good.
You're, you're self-sufficient.
Oh, just that we.
I might.
We have a state, yeah, we have a state system
I just want to be like.
that supports.
You can look, you can raise your hand, I'll see you, and I'll throw that music.
I kind of say the hell out of the
Yeah.
wall.
It's hard because it's like right at the front of the room,
And we're terrible.
but,
But it's state
yeah. But
Well, I think
I
that's
was trying to be more
coming to
mindful
your,
of that, and then.
that kind of that same imagery that's
Yeah. Your chip is, yeah. I don't know her.
Don't know.
She lost out to, oh,
All right, so when folks are ready, we're gonna come back. I know, like, from the shorter break, you'll ask for.
yeah, I don't know where that's.
Yeah, and then.
That's a big position of Oregon, how much we're gonna leverage.
Not Irving,
Yeah.
All right, so the next, the idea is before we start getting into the real meat of this and kind of really the implementation, the idea was that Doug would speak to what is in and out of scope for you all as the board. So I pass the baton to you, Doug.
Yeah, right. Kind of losing my voice, sorry. God, I had it all saved out and everything, but I don't have it, so I'm just gonna wing it. As far as what the scope is of this group. And it's a conversation we're having right now, particularly around Oregon Conservation Corps and how that board was structured and set up. And we changed it, that board was sunsetted, the Oregon Youth Corps board was sunsetted. We created this new board, and now we're continuing to clean up language. It's like, oh, well, it was referencing this statute, and so now we have to clean that statute up. And so we're talking about it, but one of the things that we're cleaning up, hopefully in a bill, House Bill 3029, is going to be around the authorities, because a lot of the language in Oregon Conservation Corps gave the board a lot of authority, gave the board authority to make the grants, really. And the problem with that is that the board doesn't have the capacity or the means to make the grants. They don't have a procurement department. They don't work with the Department of Justice. They don't have a relationship with the Department of Revenue. They don't have a bank account. So while the intent was really good, it really didn't make sense operationally how to do it. So HEC as an agency has to do those functions. So if that's the case, then really what is the scope of the board? And we defined that when we created this board. And so while it's not like the board can't write checks, but the real purpose of the board is to advise on and provide the oversight of our programs. And oversight, I think, is a powerful word. It doesn't mean dictate anything else, but it means to really be involved and be present and say, this is where we want to go. This is where we want to see you as an agency go. This is how we'd like you to do whatever, whether it be alignment, whether it be funding ideas, whether it be data and reporting and collaborating with our other state agencies, whatever those things are, that really is the role of this board. And I think there's actually quite a bit of power in that, even though it's different than what we've seen in the past as far as how it's written in statute. I think that's a pretty good high level overview. Because I mean, I've been, running state programs and involved at the local level with this work since 2020, or 2000 rather. But I'm kind of far removed from it and have gotten involved in bureaucratic processes. A lot of what we do is bureaucratic, and there's a lot of hoops we have to jump through. And if you receive state funds, you know that we run folks through the hoops as well. But really, it would be very arrogant to sit in Salem and make sound policy on statewide programming without statewide input, and local input and expertise in all these different areas. All the things that you all have been asked to be on the board to help with is to really provide that expertise and help guide us. And so that's really the role of the group. Yeah.
At the end, you were saying something around funding alignment, data and reporting, and there was a third thing. Do you remember what it was? We were talking about the potential function.
Oh, I just throwing things out there. It could be, it could be anything. It could be the funding, it could be data alignment, it could be program alignment.
Okay, maybe that was it.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to a lot of things. We are trying to really, as a unit, not get so hung up on ownership of it's our program, it's our funding. It's if we can work with somebody, say at Department of Ed or with with Youth Development Oregon and put something together, which we're piloting. And have the synergy of that being greater than what we could have each put out there for folks. We should be doing that, those kinds of things. And those ideas can come from here.
You know, Doug, I absolutely 100% agree with what you're saying. And that's why this board is important, because you're looking at, with the diversity of the group, there's a lot of different perspectives on how things work in the real world. And I think sometimes, I remember when the change was made from JTPA to WIA, and some of it was so insane. You know, I thought, did these people just all go to a party and drink a lot and say, well, let's do this? This would be a good idea. It did not ever actually worked with a kid, a person. You have a different perspective, because it all sounds great in theory, but unless you've lived it, you don't fully understand. You know, I know, you know, they have eliminated so much money that can be spent on in-school kids. And to me, that was a huge mistake, because you need to be starting with these youth when they're 14 and 15 years old. And we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we have when they're 19 and 20 years old. But they've kind of tied our hands, at least with the WIOA dollars, in serving those younger youth. And that's when you're going to make a difference. That's when you're going to make the biggest difference, is when they're young and impressionable.
I'd say roll that back to 5 years old. Because if they don't hit school ready to learn, third grade teachers can say where they're going. That's the juvenile department in jail or college. And we don't have that technical, the CTE, we don't have that in our public school systems.
I think part related to that, we don't, in the state, we don't think of the workforce ecosystem as starting in K-8. We should be.
Well, even 0 to 5.
Yeah.
0 to 5 is where we lose them. That's the foundation. That's like the house. That's the foundation. If we don't have anything happening in 0 to 5, like Parents as Teachers program or Positive Indian Youth or all those parenting classes, we're losing right there. Because the third grade teacher, if they're not hitting school ready to learn, knows where they're going.
Yeah.
I think that's tough too, because, and we're seeing it play out right now legislatively with summer learning. And what is summer learning? How is it defined? And it's going to be defined, at least as the bill is right now, the one that's moving through, it's being redefined. Summer learning really is more becoming a summer literacy, in my opinion, on the way it's written and what you can and can't do with it, which I don't disagree with. There's obviously a literacy issue that we should be trying to tackle, but what does that do for the 14, 15, 16-year-olds that have never worked before, need their first work experience? And that's now been eliminated out of what counts and what doesn't. So, yeah, I don't, again, that North Star, there's nothing we're ever, I don't think, going to be able to completely fix. But if we can certainly strive to align some of it.
CTE, how is that working?
Well, I started doing this February 17th, but here's what I've observed in that very short period of time. There's a lot of different things across the state going on. There's a lot of different things at the state level going on. There's a lot of different people that work within ODE. I mean, there's somebody who does CTE for ODE. That's all they do. But nobody, this, like I said, I've only been doing this for a little while, but in trying to introduce myself to as many people as possible and learning what's going on around the state, there's a complete disconnect as usual. I mean, sorry, but with what's going on around and what resources we have pockets in different places around the state that are doing different things. I mean, we have STEM hubs, we have economic developments, we have workforce development offices, we have tech offices, we have schools that have CTE directors, we have schools that don't have CTE directors, we have regional people. I mean, we have all these different people that are doing all these different things, and there's some really cool site-specific things. I mean, like you're talking about natural resources, right? I mean, we've got the fish butchery on the coast. I mean, there's different things going on. I talked to somebody in Madras they're working on getting a processing plant up and going. And I said, did you know that Blue Mountain Community College has a new butcher program? No, we didn't know that. I said, well, let's get you two together. And this is coming from economic development. My view that I've projected, that I said that was important with my job was looking at all the economic development districts in the state. If we look at them and we look at what their priorities are and we look at what their workforce need is, how do we take that backwards into the schools and show, the need, and then develop those programs to bring them forward to the workforce. It's just a scattered vegetable soup of everything. I mean, there's pockets of things happening everywhere, but I can't really say right now that there's this structure in place and it's like, oh, this is working good, we can do this everywhere. And I can't say that. And that's not true. It's not because the state's different. It's because there's crazy things going on everywhere. And I think too, I'm going to the CTE conference next week, so I'll learn more there. But what I think too is missing, that can be stronger is the industry connection. I mean, I think there's folks in industry that are out there that are trying, but they're not connecting to the right people at the school level or to reach the youth, I guess. So I don't know, that's just observations that I've seen so far. And I mean, just in my job, it's like, okay, where do you, where do you even start? I mean, I'm looking at the short-term goals and thinking there's some easy fruit to pick, right? And then there's some long-term things, like, is there some structure that you can put in place? But I mean, like, OES that we talked about, that was at our last meeting. I mean, nobody knows about it. It's this amazing thing that's in place. There's curriculum, it's out there, it's been developed by the state, it's actually really great. I mean, every time I talk to somebody, I said, do you know about OES? No? What is it? I said, I'm sending you the information. Like, you should do this. I mean, it's good stuff and it's developed by industry. So I don't know, it's kind of frustrating. The other thing that frustrates me a little bit is the language. And even in the title that they created for this job, CTE, trades, and workforce development. I mean, CTE and trades, are they the same or are they different? Are they different than the regular K-12 curriculum? I mean, we have the K-12 curriculum. Oh, these guys are all going to college. And then we have trades and we have CTE. I mean, to me, those aren't different buckets. They should all be molded together. And that is a K-12 problem. I mean, that's an education problem.
Can I interrupt you really quickly? I just want to see, is this feeling relevant to everybody in the group? Because it's a little off track, but we can move in a different direction and adapt if this feels like important information. So is it helpful to kind of hear maybe these high level things? If so, I can do a little bit of a tweak. It's a real question.
Well, I think it is very relevant, and I think it is very important. I think that's the most key takeaway is involving industry to lead this, because they're all, I mean, money plays a part. So, I mean, if you go to a high school in Eugene versus I go to a school in Camas Valley, your opportunities are very, very different. And it's all based on who has the money and who doesn't. And if we can tie industry in, especially in the smaller communities, and get them to start financially supporting their future workforce, that's going to make a huge difference.
And I think some of them will.
I think
think
so
some
too.
of
I
them
mean, we're
get
having some
that.
pretty good success in Douglas County with manufacturers that are willing to cough up some money to get some programs, some pre-apprenticeship programs in place, so that they have a future workforce. Because at least the kids in our area have been told, you don't want to go work in a mill. No, dude, that's a dead end. Why would you ever do that? You need to go to college and you need to do this and that. And a lot of the kids don't understand, or young people don't understand that, you know, there are a lot of opportunities within that manufacturer. It doesn't, you know, you're not pulling green chain anymore. You know, you're working on the computers, you're working on the equipment, you're an electrician, you're a millwright, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities that they're not even aware of.
We're seeing this on the, I was just gonna, we're seeing this on the clean energy side and
Are you working with Chris, Rita?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
and on my team is, yeah, okay. Yeah. But I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like there's such disconnection and what we've discovered is that the resource sharing is critical, right? So that like you're not having to reinvent a program in Eastern Oregon where you don't maybe necessarily have resources, but if there's like a plug and play from some other place, and that is where we're seeing the most value because then industry can just plug in with that existing thing.
Finding the thing is what's hard. I mean, it's like just random if you run across it, feels like to me, like there's no centralized place for any of this stuff. Like you just gotta be talking to the right person, at the right place, at the right time to even stumble across these.
I mean, we're building, like for our work, we are literally building like a library of stuff, but you have to do it by industry for a lot of it, not like employability skills, but a lot of the other stuff, it is industry
specific. That's what I think too.
Well, and then that, I think the broad exposure to, you know, kind of tap into Jerry a little bit, right? How many schools in that region, the only CTE program is ag?
Oh, yeah.
That is it. There's one and it's ag.
They don't have it. They don't have
Right.
opportunities.
There's no exposure, no opportunity. You know, and part of that, kind of that centralization, right? The money thing comes into conversation. The fact that your regional coordinators that are really helping to make a lot of, there's no background funding.
Right.
So cool, here's this pot of federal funding that needs to go to the kids to help provide those resources. And what's that have to do? That has to help pay for the salary for the guy that's supposed to be helping it because there's no brand mileage for covering all of Eastern Oregon for one guy. Yeah, here's this little bitty pot that you're drawing from because there's no backbone support from it from the state.
And they don't have the experience in that sector, which then makes it harder for them to help career navigate, right? Because
And
they
it
only
can
know what
be-
they know.
I mean, it can be as simple as, for instance, early childhood education. Like we all need childcare, we all need teachers. That's an economic development priority for just about everywhere in the state. I asked our person for Eastern Oregon, who covers 26 schools, I think, and I said, do we have any ECE pathways in Eastern Oregon? He said, no. And I said, okay, well, you know, I mean, I said, how do we get those started? Well, we don't have the staffing, we don't have the teachers, we don't have the, you know, I mean, the expertise is there, that the education is even there, but how do we insert that into the school? So it's like, do you do it virtually? I mean, I don't know what you do, but it's I keep coming back to industry. It's manufacturing industry, it's education industry, it's clean energy industry. I mean, that's where it's falling.
I had to get 5 letters from industry
Natural
before we
resources
got the
industry.
forestry and conservation specialist occupation approved at Department of Labor. You had to get those 5. Hillary got us a letter. I mean, we had to get those 5 letters before they'd even look at approving that occupation.
And I guess ODE, you guys can tell me that ODE has the industry consortia. There's 3, right? There's 3 groups that are meeting right now. It's like healthcare, business and manufacturing, and what's that? Technology, yeah. So I mean, they're kind of going, I mean, that's the route they're going to, but when the 3.
Davey and Heidi, I both, at one point, each of you was gonna say something. Do you have anything you still wanna say?
Sure.
You're good? Okay.
Just, you know, one of the things that worked well for us in Lake County when it comes to and sort of engaging industry. So if you have a CTE program, probably at a high school, you have to have an advisory board. and often, and it's supposed to be made up of at least 2 industry members, which is not a lot, but, we sort of saw it as teachers just like checking a box and not having the time or capacity to really engage. And so what we did for our region, because we have 3 sort of big or medium-sized schools, and then we have 13 that are all considered rural. And so you think about, you know, those rural communities. Anyway, so one of the things that we did was to centralize the advisory board. So to take all those high schools that had a manufacturing program or had a healthcare program, and we partnered with our workforce investment board to create the advisory boards to help all of those. So then what we started to see is that the industry then was contributing in ways like financially and in person power that could support, you know, especially our rural. So like an example is we wanted to create when, I don't know, 10 years ago when I started, we didn't have any computer science CT programs, and now we have 13 in our county. And so one of the ways that we did that was to partner with industry to say, like, how can you help certify these teachers to be able to teach? And so they hosted them for 200 hours over the summer in kind of a teacher externship to skill them up. And that was a way that industry could then, and they paid for it. So those teachers were making money too. And then when we host like youth program, we do a hackathon called Coder Create. It's financially supported by like 5 different companies, but it's for youth across the county. So we're not like focusing the resource on like the school that has it, or, you know, they have more money because of like parent involvement or whatever it might be. And so that's just one way to think about how to engage the industry a little bit more is working with the Workforce Investment Board was one of the things. And then like sharing the resource among sort of the haves and the have-nots so that you can build more robust programs. And then that rural district that has 24 in their graduating class has the same curriculum as the school that has 1,400, right? So that's just one thing I wanted to put in there.
Great. I think this will be really helpful. I think this, and it's great that everybody could hear this because we'll go into, I'm not cutting this off. This is exactly the same conversation you'll have, but you'll be in 2 different groups. So I'm glad that everybody could hear this before we split. But you'll have, these are great conversations to continue. To recap what Doug was sharing in terms of influence. So you all can influence priorities. You can give advice. And you can provide formal recommendations, which can include a formal recommendation to give a legislative ask. There, it's on the owl. Any questions about what you all as a board have in terms of authority for decisions? I'll put those up somewhere on the wall where they won't fall off, but any questions about what your authority is as a board?
I'd like to lean into the advice line a little bit because I think that one's sometimes a little bit hinky. Like, what is our actual authority on advice? At what point? Is it only when asked? Like, what's the dividing line between formal recommendation based on data gathered, assimilated, evaluated, and
advice
based on the same?
I would hope it's not only when asked.
So then what doors would we knock on and when?
But I think that's where we should spend some time too when we're talking about how do we influence, who do you make a recommendation to? You know, and is that gonna be the HEC? Is that gonna go to the full HEC commission? Because the way it, like, just legislatively or policy wise, anything that we do has to be blessed by the HEC itself. So if we come up with a legislative concept to just change policy, create a new program, try to go for more money, whatever we do with that, first it's got to go through the executive team at the agency. Once they bless it, it goes to the full commission for a vote. So I think there's definitely, that is a place where you could insert and do your darndest to have some influence. I think the Workforce Talent Development Board is another excellent place. I think with the industry consortium, all the stuff that Brian's a part of it. There are other folks that are part of it, but to start making recommendations and blending the work of some of these groups, I think makes total sense. So does that help at all, Jim?
Sure. May I bounce off of Digit's theme and topics into, are we allowed to cross-pollinate with other agencies and their advisory boards? For example, the state. So I have to tell you, I was one of those 6 at ODE for many years. I'd like to offer you some hopeful data. Is that in Oregon, students who complete 3 years of CTE graduate at 97.7%. And that's tens of thousands of students that are achieving that. And to funding, it is on a limited backbone of federal funding, our state dollars and CTE, which are supposed to be coming through Measure 98. I don't know the exact number, but it's 80% of the funds that were meant to fund CTE do not. They fund 80% and greater. Fund 80. Fund other decisions as chosen at the local level. And so 20% is state funding going to CTE when it was meant to be 100% bucket. Has a lot of politics now. But what I see as a big marketing and communications issue for all the firms, because I would love for the CTE side of the world to know about all of this, because career tech and teachers see the students who slip out of the system and could find great benefit in these training programs where the education can be completed in a different other than traditional.
Is there ever a meeting of?
So wait, is that your question? Is it your question is, like, can we connect with the ODE board?
CCWD or WTD, that which is internal to this agency, but can we start cross-pollinating with other agencies to create that
Other boards?
larger conversation? So that there is a state CTE advisory board that, so much like we feed the OE board, right? OE systems were, I don't know,
Doug, do you know the answer?
is that a reach?
Oh, no, I think that's doable. I don't think that's a reach. I think it needs to be coordinated. I would hate for people to just call somebody they know on a board and have their own private conversations. But I think if that was coordinated as a whole, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if it's intentional and inclusive.
You even have agencies like YDO implementing Future Ready Oregon workforce money, right? So you've got that piece, and then WIOA, we haven't really talked about it, but it sits somewhere else, which is, those are the kids that are not doing well in school. So yeah, there's like all this different workforce money that sits and not a lot of people talking about.
I don't know what that conversation would look like, but I know if everybody was in the same room and heard what everybody else was doing, I think that would be positive.
We have a summit.
Yes, maybe that's what we need, a couple days, all these people together. Yes, there's all different specialties in the areas going on, but everybody knows what everybody else is doing and even knows the players. Like, I don't even know the players.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just searching the internet and calling people. I mean, I don't even know the players. I mean, I need a map,
They
you know?
change, they change.
They do
and that's
change.
part of it. I mean, that's why DC's, everything's changing right now. Federal employees that have been our partners for 2 decades, they're changing right now. I mean, so we have to be nimble, pivot quickly to get back in alignment and get everybody back on the same page again. I mean, and because all that organizational knowledge, agency knowledge is gone, out the door. You know, even, your position, I mean, who are you gonna have filled out this?
And it's tricky. I mean, this isn't unique to Oregon or anything, but it's like, how can we do better at communicating and knowing the resources we have? I mean, there's resources out there. We should be crossing paths, but we're
silent.
Yeah,
We're silent like
I like
the dominant.
I like the summit idea. I love it.
That's part of what we just presented on, is those interdepartmental MOUs, how we all working together, how we communicate together.
Funding there, there's expertise there. Same kids, there's like
the dot. You have to connect the dot.
What would it look like? ODE is asking now for 100 million plus to build 7 regional career tech ed centers to support the most remote rural. What would it look like to have other agencies sitting in support of versus an agent, because it will affect others, right?
But is the right model 7 regional centers or is
So
it different?
the conversation has been had here and had here and had here, when the conversation was had holistically.
Where the other youth workforce dollars? Employment department has some, right?
In the state,
Yeah.
we need to figure that out.
I mean, I think that's part of like, 'cause I had a partner that we work with reach out to me a couple of years ago and they were like, oh, we're applying for this grant. And I was like, oh, is it through the heck? Oh, no, it's through this other thing. And I was like, what? It's like, this sounds like the same program that the heck, I can't remember now what it was, but I was like, it sounds like the same, but it's different. I think that would be helpful to your point of like a summit. I think that there's like all of these things that are happening, but they're not talking to each other. So we're actually duplicating effort in a lot of ways, which is extremely ineffective.
Yeah, and one of the,
I don't know that we want that.
Strike that from the record.
one of the main focus areas or goals of the strategic plan, and I think it's the one that really ties nicely with the purpose of this board and exactly what everybody is talking about right now, is it fits under strategically aligned and sustainably fund youth workforce development programs. And it talks to understanding and maintaining engagement with all youth workforce systems across the state to align what is there that can be aligned, and to go out and create awareness and support, go to other meetings, be a part of those discussions, and increase public-private partnerships. So I think it's all right in line. But it's a matter of then how do we, and maybe I think this is kind of where we're going. If this was going to be our one big theme for this evening or afternoon, what are we going to do about it?
What does it look like?
Right. And is it a summit? And is it because it does these things? And is that where we want to go as a, to try to at least figure out? You know, I would love, although it would get crazy. But I'd love there to be a study on youth workforce development programs that are state funded in the state of Oregon. I would love somebody to come in and do that. That's gonna cost a couple $100,000. But it might be worth the investment. And I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but, yeah. It all fits. That's what I'm trying to say.
You know, maybe our next meeting, one of the things we need to do is to pull out the state's 4-year strategic plan and really dive into the youth goals.
Well, I'm gonna take this opportunity, hold that, that's great. All of this can come into whatever you develop, but I'm gonna take that opportunity, if it's okay with everybody, to just talk about this alignment with goals. And so what I brought the operational goals from Office of Workforce Investments and then Oregon Youth Works strategic framework. Because what I'd love to do is just make sure we look at those before we go into the goal setting. So Ashley's on it. Yeah. Perfect. So is everybody cool with this? Going back to kind of alignment with strategy before we go into the planning.
OB goals, we don't have that much impact on.
They've been decided, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
So we're not impacting them. What we want to do is work within them.
Okay.
So if the OB goals are here, what we don't want to do probably are create a bunch of plans to go over here. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to share those. Yeah. Oh, if you go down to the second PowerPoint, Ashley, the Oregon Youth Works board meeting. There you go. Yeah. Oh, here's my quote. Do y'all like the quote? Okay, here's the operational goals from the Office of Workforce Investment. These are aligned with the HEC as well. We wanted to keep it simple. We made a decision to not throw too much at everybody. What's really important is that we're aligning with Office of Workforce Investments and then the board strategic framework. So these are the goals to develop pathways, and you should have this in writing. It's kind of pretty pretty small. You'll see these, but you'll have this in writing as well. So develop pathways that equip job seekers for critical sectors in Oregon. Increasing diversity, equity, access, and inclusion within workforce development opportunities, services, and support systems. Excellent customer service. Elevate the visibility and reputation of workforce learning and career readiness across Oregon. Efficient and effective internal communication. So what questions do you all have about these goals, if any?
My first is, how are we doing on any one of them?
They were just shared out. So these are forward thinking for the next 2.5 years. And I think they're the beginning of them.
Built upon some practice from the past of, like, if these are the new operational goals, they're built upon some manner of being in the past, right?
I know. I don't know if Miranda feels, or if anybody in leadership is comfortable sharing. Yeah, I just don't have that information. I'm not sure.
I can share some of it.
Okay.
So we went through, and we call it defining OE, the Office of Workforce Investments. It's a strategic plan. We have to be very careful calling it a strategic plan because the HEC has a strategic plan.
Right.
And the governor has put down the mandate that every agency gets one strategic plan. So now we're just getting creative and calling it something different to get away with it. So really, that's what it is. And these are the operational goals that came out of that larger plan. That staff have now broken into groups, and we've just started meeting to talk about how we're going to get there. What does this mean? How are we going to truly operationalize these areas? Because just like with any other strategic plan, there were more things listed than what we could really physically do and focus on at one time. So these are the things that have been pulled out that we're starting to talk about as a group. So it's very early on. But it wasn't just willy-nilly, here this is. It went through a true strategic planning process. Thanks.
Is customer service internal and external?
Both.
Yes.
Both.
What are they defining as critical sectors? And how are they defining it?
Well, where's Todd when I need him?
Great question.
I think Todd's on there.
Is Todd on the call?
Todd, are you on the call?
Oh, he
Okay.
was, I saw him earlier on there.
It might be that he rejoins later, and if so, we'll ask Todd.
So there is legislation that's going through too that talks about who is going to define critical sectors, and it's going to be the Workforce and Talent Development Board if that legislation goes through. But I think that's going to be driven probably from the local workforce boards. I haven't read the legislation that closely. So Todd would be able to answer it with a little more knowledge, but who's going to define that? It will be defined, or at least sanctioned at some point by the state workforce board. But I think I hope it's being driven from
Data driven. I mean, I think it's really important to be data driven.
Yeah.
Because then we're just shooting,
Right.
shotgun effect.
I would think, the economic development, like the SEDS would be where that comes from.
Right, and it's for those critical sectors changing. Because I know they are in our country, broadband, work and all that's coming on. And like for the Department of Labor, Forestry and Conservation Specialist, that wasn't even available until the end of December. So now everybody across the nation can do that, but it wasn't available, so. How are we setting ourselves up for training for those critical sectors? So we have a on-ramp camp for a natural resource career pathway. And now a pre-apprenticeship program that we're setting the standards for a year-long pre-apprenticeship broken down into hours. So we probably should do that for CNA, for nurses, for carpentry. So everybody gets this on-ramp camp. If, you're gonna have these certifications even to get to here. And then by that time, 640 hours, 4 months, you're gonna know if you wanna go on. Or how we can career counsel to direct you into a pathway that you got the aha moment and no, I want to do this. So.
And Brian, do you have anything to add really on the sectors? Because it's kind of changing from the 3 main consortia that we have right now with Future Ready Oregon to expand.
Yeah, and we're kind of slowly bringing them into our industry engagement team to really be able to expand that. But I do think a lot of it's going to be data driven, at least from what we're doing, with the various studies that have happened and the ones that are coming in the future too. But I do think a lot of the conversations we have also take into account the local levels too, because there are a lot of similarities, but there's also conflicts that needs to be acknowledged, and some of it, nothing's left out that is critical for somewhere, some region.
Our reporting board has well, sorry, verifying, our reporting board has critical sectors defined that we're prioritizing based on need within our county. Well, a lot of that comes from our local, economy. Although, you know, some of the data they pull, it takes them 2 years to get the data. I mean, you should have those for 4 years.
Right. Well, that was gonna be one of my questions or concerns is, right, we wanna make data-driven decisions, but how old is the data these decisions are gonna be predicated upon? Because like one thing in schools, right, is they base funding for, let's say, like counseling and emotional support programs based off of the center. Well, okay, all of this stuff, this funding was based off of pre-COVID, pre-lockdown data that showing trends going like this, and we're reacting and having to respond to this huge spike. So your service levels are being cut as far as funding, while the amount of services you're having to provide is skyrocketing. So how reactionary, right, are we actually looking at the world that we're living in? Or are we looking so far back that, hey, we're actually missing the curve?
So that's great. And I consider this when you're thinking about recommendations. These are the type of things I think that could go into formal recommendations.
I mean, we're definitely missing. I can tell you, you know, the projected funding for WIOA this year, a huge cut in dislocated worker dollars. We are starting to see many dislocations, many closures, but they're looking at data and basing funding from 2 years ago. And I've seen this because I've been around for a couple of years now. You will get the money too late. And by the time you get the money, then it's like, oh, okay, now we've really increased it because look at, well, now the economy has made another shift and we don't have as many dislocated workers coming. I mean.
All right, so I'm gonna keep us going. This is all great. Keep all of this. We're gonna keep us going so we can continue. Actually, if you're willing to go to the next one. That kind of gets us into Oregon Youth Works. We did this last meeting. Everybody was here last meeting. I think everybody except for Heidi. I know this is your first. So this is, I don't know if this is your first time seeing Oregon Youth Works strategic framework. This is the implementation. These are the operational goals. So we want to be keeping this in mind as well. So promoting talent, diversity, and inclusion across workforce sectors, fostering collaborative community engagement, promoting work readiness skills. Here's industry, needs of business and industry. Invest in individual growth and personal development to uplift youth and young adults, and then strategically align and sustainably fund youth workforce development programs. I think you all as the board probably really have a lot to say around that fifth bullet point there. Any questions about these? Cool. So I'm just going to keep it focused on like questions, clarifications, any clarifications about these goals or what they mean. If not, I'm going to assume everybody feels comfortable.
Well, it's the tracking of it, like where's our report card, you know? How?
Great. What a good question. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and move into what we're going to do then. Before we move, I do want to just feed back. I want to make sure you all hear what rose up from your last meeting. One of the things that really personally disappoints me is if I give a bunch of input and I do a bunch of work and then I don't know what happens with that. And so one of the things that we did after last meeting was went through everything that was said, wrote a report, and pulled through themes. And so I think you have the report if you want to see the details. It's there for you to access, but I wanted to just share some of the themes that kind of rose up from the last board meeting in case there's anything in that helps, again, inform your smaller group discussions and the outcomes that you create. So yeah, go ahead, Ashley. Thank you. If you could go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, you just go past that one. So that was perfect. You did have it. Yeah, that one. So these were a few repetitive themes that came up last time around what does success look like. Work ready essential employability skills, career progression was really important. So being able to see that because somebody did this, they progressed. Improved social and emotional skills. I think a lot of folks said that was a really key focus area. And then the diversity in who Oregon Youth Works is reaching, that it's intentional and equitable funding. For those of you who were here last time, this resonate, hopefully this should resonate with what you heard. Actually, if you go to the next slide. This goes to the data question. We looked a lot at data. It's a lot of data. It's a lot of detail. I do have a couple copies of it. So if anybody in your small groups, if you really want to get into the details of what data is captured and not captured, I have that and I can give you that. But this is what came out as themes around data we need to capture. So work readiness instruction. EES, is that employment eligibility or does
Essential.
Thank you. Essential employability skills. So work readiness for essential employability. There was the other data themes that rose to the top were establishing baseline data. So, Belinda, like, what is our baseline? I've heard a couple people ask it in different ways, but what's our baseline? That could be something that you could do is figure out what kind of baseline data do we need to create to then be able to say, this is how we know we're successful or not. So we could look at something around baseline data or establishing it, alignment of data inputs that are allowable across all funding streams. Funding streams ask for really different information. So that was something that rose to the top. Tribal sovereign nations funded, number of eligible youth within tribal sovereign nations that are funded, and getting data around that. If I understand, maybe like there wasn't data, couldn't see that data. So maybe getting that data, making that data a little bit more visible. And unmet needs, so understanding how many applications were not served. Heidi, I think that's a little bit about what you were talking about. We had, 50, but we have 400 applications, and that could be getting visibility into how many people are we not serving, and then housing insecurity and economic impact. So how many people, those were two separate ones. I just wanted to put them on the slide. So maybe how many people are accessing programs that were experiencing housing insecurity, how many people as a result of a program then experienced a positive economic benefit or economic impact. So that's what rose up around data in case that's useful. And then if we could go one more slide. Possible funding solutions. We talked about, these were the ones again that came up as the top. So building of a coalition of the willing was where there was, these top three was where there was the most energy. So building a coalition of the willing, legislature, looking for a separate and distinct fund, leveraging workforce boards, braiding funding streams, creating local and regional business partnerships, and ability to roll funding from the following year to the next year for sustainable programs. Yeah. Again, does this resonate with what you all experienced and kind of discussed last time? So hopefully this is helpful to have this as a reference point. And then Ashley, I think the last slide here, couple key points that I wanted to just highlight is that there are some sub-grants that are getting finalized right now. If I understand correctly, there's 3 internal ones, 2 have already been finalized, 1 has not been finalized yet. So if you wanted to make a recommendation potentially around that sub-grant, I think there's one opportunity maybe. But the biggest thing I really wanted to highlight is that it's July to December that legislative concepts are created. And so July to December of 2025 is when those concepts are formulated, and then they get passed off to the HEC. And then at the HEC level, they're reviewed, finalized, submitted to the governor. That takes a long time. And then the governor decides what the 2025 to 2027 budget is going to be. And then the 2025 to 2027 budget gets communicated around January 2027. So the window of opportunity, if we're talking about board influence and we're talking about formal recommendations, priorities, those kinds of things, the window of opportunity, if I understand it right, and Doug, Brian, please tell me if I'm incorrect, but I think it's really, if you want to influence the next biennium's budget, the window of opportunity is July to December. That makes sense? Yeah. So it's this second half of this year where there's some like molding that can happen that you would then see 2027.
Yeah, and that's a fair timeline, and really, it doesn't have to be fully developed. I mean, the ideas will start coming in, the office will start working through them. And it's a long process, and then it's a heartbreaking process because you don't always get back what you put into it.
And you all can't advocate for anything that's not included in the governor's recommendation.
Correct. Correct. And the only reason we've had a little bit of leeway with Oregon Conservation Corps not being in the governor's budget is because she mentioned it in the appendix of her priorities of her budget. But basically she asked the legislature to find a way to fund it. But it's not included in her budget. So it gave us, it opened a door where we could talk about it and not get ourselves in trouble. But yeah, for the most part, if it's not in the governor's budget and we put all this effort in and put it forward and HEC puts it forward and the governor says no, then that's the end of the story. Yeah.
For HEC though, like that's not to say that that an LC couldn't be introduced by somebody else.
True.
To fund it.
Yeah, it could be, you can influence through another agency, right?
But we'd have to be neutral.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody's timelines are gonna be decently similar, so yeah. So what I say, accurate, anything you wanna add, Brian? Okay, just wanna make sure that that's accurate. Any questions about these timelines or how the state legislature, like when those decisions are made? No, okay. So we'll go into our groups then, and here is my thought. My thought was just to make sure that everybody can speak, we just start off with 2 smaller groups. And I'm thinking of balancing it a little bit. And so I'm thinking, for example, Brooke and Jim, having you each in a different group. And then maybe thinking about when we stood along the wall and the people who had the most experience and the least experience. And maybe balancing the groups a little bit so that you have a balance of people who have a lot of experience and maybe somebody who has some fresh eyes or great questions to ask, who maybe has can see things in a different way. So balancing the groups out that way, but just two groups, and then I've got a framework which you can use or not use. It's really up to you, but I created an Excel sheet which you can have electronically, and I've got a printout of it. It works for me in the way that my brain works. If you all want to create something different, that's fine. But the thought was to do some more deep dive thinking, come up with recommendations in your smaller groups, and then we'll bring them back. Each group would present the recommendation, and then any decisions that are made be made by the whole group altogether. So, Brooke, if it's okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Brooke had an idea which I really loved because I really like this idea of when there is a lot of unknowns, making goals a year out can be really effective. So kind of focusing on year-long goals. So if we're in April, looking at April generally, 2026. And then you could have other goals. And then Brooke proposed a model that you've used on a board. Are you willing to speak to that model?
Yeah, so we have a coalition for the Clean Energy Workforce Coalition. Our goals are in short, medium, and long term. And so short term is the year, medium term is 1 to 3 years, and then long term is 3 to 5 years. And the idea is that we're really focusing on the short term goals as we're working through, but if there's an opportunity that becomes available, we can then look to see how it aligns with our medium term or long term goals. And they kind of cascade within each other, right? So like our short term goals are feeding our medium and long term goals.
Speaks to that nimbleness. I really like this idea of you might think that a goal is hard to reach. So yes, we want to focus on our 1 year goals, but you might think of something that's really out of reach, but you never know when an opportunity comes up. And if we can do a little bit of thinking about what those longer term or medium term goals are, if an opportunity comes up, you can grab it and can adjust, and you can pull it in and say, well, let's move towards this now because this opportunity just came. So I really liked that flexibility there. So that's the thinking. That's the thinking behind the framework that it created. It just has the mission, vision, and goals. It has the values on there. And then it just has a framework for coming up with 2 to 4 short-term goals, 2 to 4 medium-term goals. And then looking at how you'll measure them. And again, if you don't like what I created and you want to do a different system, please use whatever works for you. How about Jim's group can kind of be on this side of the room, and we feel free to move around the tables and chairs to make yourself comfortable. But Jim, are you comfortable kind of staying where you are and being in this part, that corner of the room? And then Brooke, are you comfortable being in this part of the room here, Brooke's group? And if we go toward, I'm thinking we go till, let's see, it's 4:10-ish. If we go till 5. So let's try with creating a recommendation by 5 with the idea of presenting the recommendation to the group at 5. Does that sound like a good starting point?
So turning from our small team to the big team at 5.
Ready with a recommendation, yeah, correct.
And the recommendation is
On the outcome, the board outcomes and goals,
okay.
the short and medium term.
Okay.
And this is the, okay, show this. This is what it looks like. So basically filling this out with some version.
If you don't have one, let me know, please.
And I have this, can share this with anybody who wants, a digital version. That's the easiest for filling it out. You can share this digitally.
Was that in the?
I'm gonna post it in the chat right now too.
Everybody clear on what we're doing, where we're heading, timeline? Any other questions?
Ashley, you said you had a couple extra copies.
You can have this one. I've got. I'm gonna go digital.
Come grab it.
Moving this table around.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
And I also have prompts. If the prompts are helpful, do you want to see a sheet of that looks like this with prompts? Or maybe I haven't handed it out yet.
Also just move to the inside.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Let's say it over.
Yeah.
Sure, 5.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and use it if it's helpful. Or
You guys want to go around, but yeah, but there's chairs over there.
Well, the idea was that,
No.
each
Okay.
group, it would just create one group. So, yeah, so we'd end up with 2. Yeah.
Medium. There's no round.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, let me buy it.
I started.
You don't need to go there, but I know, I know, I can't find right now. I know.
You don't have it. Okay.
It's been pretty divided. Maybe what we need is bring us the judges on the order.
I think it's like jumping out of them, if they need to say.
So they are outcomes. Establish.
The approval.
If you join one,
Mhm.
get that.
Whatever works.
You join the group and you join the group.
And then, would I just be with Matt? So, because I wait, how many, like that, for kind of like the developing like pathways. That one, Ashley, have a similar, that was good for percent. And we broke it into like identifying like the shop. I wrote